Kids over here, I'm trying to get the show going, and my little one's over here asking me about a pedicure. All right, let's get going. Let's start the music. Let's kick it off, guys. What's up, locals? What's going on, everybody? Woo! I got some angry phone callers. We're going over today, guys. It's going to happen. Let's see if I can get brand new poll results for you guys. All right, guys, welcome to What Are the Odds with Barnes and Baris, episode 101. Still going strong, I hear. Episode 101. 100 episode before the election. I guess that's pretty appropriate considering how things went. All right, I'm going to show you guys the results of the for those of you who don't watch Inside the Numbers maybe and you don't know. We're going to be for at least the next 3 weeks, and I'm going to try to keep this up until the holidays. We're going to be continuously tracking. We should get about 3,000 responses a week, even though the bulk of those responses will be collected during the end of the week. All right. Everyone's got a philosophy. And one of my major philosophies has always been that there are certain days where you can reach demographics more easily. I know I'm a heretic in public polling as well. Look, I wish the principles of randomization were super easy and, still worked because we only all had, the post office, or we only all had a door we can knock on, or we only all had, a landline. That's it that we could all call. But that's not how modern polling works anymore. So make a long story short, there are reasons why I do what I do. And so what does that mean? It means that we will be asking about a few things every week, and that is to rank the issues that are the top 10 cited, which are almost always going to be the same, by the way. But it's remarkable how little, after another 3,007 interviews, although I don't know why there's only 3,006 recorded here. Maybe I just need to upgrade it, but update it. But after that, how remarkably little it has changed. We'll also ask Donald Trump we'll also ask about the Trump administration's focus on foreign versus domestic affairs. Again, one of the things that I found remarkable is how consistent it still is. Now, nothing that he has said over the last, let's say, 4 or 5 days has really had a chance to fully sink in. We just saw the Senate vote with the government opening again. Maybe things will dramatically change next week. But for right now, we're looking at roughly the same thing. All right. So while we're in the middle, looks like Laura's going to mail Barnes the thing. But in the meantime, I'm going to text it to him. He'll be here in a second. If you like the videos, don't forget to like them and share them far and wide. Look, after going on 6 days, well, we're going to be 6 days. Tomorrow will be a week before, from Election Day. So Republicans have had still less than a week to process what happened to them last Tuesday night. And they've been fighting a lot about different things. There's very clearly a foreign intel op to keep the Republican Party focused. I think there's probably some that have bad intentions and are intentionally trying to fracture things. But I also think there's a one issue interest group that is super afraid that they're going to lose the influence that they've had in the Republican Party. Let me give you guys my take on where I think things are right now. And I know that Robert is probably going to have a little bit more of an optimistic view. So I'm going to start with the one that I think is where we are right now for the Republican Party. And viewers inside the numbers, you're going to know this. All right. I think that the Trump presidency is cooked as of right now. Okay. I'm going to give you guys, I'm not a pessimist. I keep getting comments like you're pessimistic. I'm not pessimistic. I'm not a pessimist. I'm realistic. I'm a realist. And as far as myself and where I am personally, I'm an eternal optimist. The pendulum of American politics will forever swing back and forth. The question is, how much time in between those swings is that's the question. How much time is in between those swings? Because how much of your agenda can you get while you're dominating a generation of politics like we saw throughout the 20th century? This didn't have to happen to Republicans. And I'm going to bring Robert in here right now, but I'm going to continue saying what I'm going to say real quick, Robert. But this didn't have to happen to Republicans. They could have had a coalition, Donald Trump's coalition, not the Republican coalition, because remember, Republicans ran behind Donald Trump, Robert, everywhere in 2024. The Trump coalition could have been turned into a Republican coalition that could have governed this country for 30 years. It could have been very much modeled off of the Roosevelt coalition. The difference, however, between what happened to the Democratic Party back then and what happened to the Republican Party now is that Republicans did not complete the transition. They didn't complete the realignment. 10 years into this movement, they still have not completed that realignment. It's unbelievable. They have allowed interest groups, powerful interest groups that represent tiny, tiny voting minorities of the current coalition for Trump, which, by the way, would have evolved more. This is what I think a lot of people are missing. Like, so every single one of the Ted Cruzes that you get rid of, all right, or the Lindsey Graham, that's a better example, because Lindsey's in a deep red state that's going to vote for a MAGA candidate no matter what. Like, you could have Paul Dance. They're not going to beat Paul Dance, right? So that's a red state, and it should have a senator who reflects the views of that state. But because all of the money, and I'm not trying to say anything controversial here, it's just true. Because of the money all flows from the neocon and the big Jewish donors and the big Chamber of Commerce Republican Protestants, right? Like, because it does, they've been able to hold on to this party like that and defeat better candidates. And Donald Trump did not play a productive role in this challenge to do at all. Like, so Randy Fine in Florida is a great example. I can get to that in a second. But that's what should be going on, because every Lindsey Graham that you get rid of, you're going to gain a John Fetterman. I'm sure you know about the certain conversation I'm going to allude to right now, Robert, but I know for a fact that John Fetterman would be a Republican. He would have changed his party, and he would be the Republican from the state of Pennsylvania. Right now, very much in the populist MAGA mold, with the exception of a few issues that John disagrees with, but he agrees more with Trump and Trumpism than he does with the modern Democratic Party. The reason John Fetterman is not a U.S. Senator from Pennsylvania right now is because of the neocon. All right. He doesn't like the Mitch McConnells. He doesn't like the Ted Cruzes. If you toss them, you'll get a Ro Khanna. You'll get a John Fetterman. You'll get but Republicans are denying the completion of this realignment because of all of this money that works against them. I just put up, Mark Levin, everyone's sharing around his, rant about how, there would be no America if there was no Israel, which is just crazy. There would. What it would look like is debatable. But of course, there would still be a new world. All right. I mean, this is just insane. Yeah, we would not have known how to sail across the fucking Atlantic Ocean if it wasn't for Judaism. This is getting out of control now. But this is who they are. They are essentially agents of a foreign government, and they've infiltrated the Republican Party, and they're stopping this realignment. All right. So because of that, guys, this is why I'm pessimistic. You have 1 year in a new presidency that is peak presidency. Next year, because people don't seem to understand this, and locals, this. We've talked about this privately and in private streams on locals. Next year, everyone will enter campaign mode. Even if Republicans want, Robert, to do something aggressive, there's no way to physically drag Democrats back to Washington, D.C. They're also masters of delay, and they will not vote on anything controversial or aggressive during an election season. That's it. And then also remember, who will they spend most of this next year with? They'll spend it with the Bill Ackmans. They'll spend it with all of the people who put on that conference a week ago. They will spend it with the and I don't want to trash some of them because I know some of them. They call, they ask me what I think. They don't listen almost ever, but they do, some of them are nice people, they are. But they're hurting the country and they're hurting the party, and they stole Donald Trump's presidency, right? And Donald Trump let him. So I'm not letting Trump off the hook. He let them steal his second presidency and waste it on foreign ventures that were the pet projects of other people, while Americans who voted for America first was dying. This is why this faction, this Israel first faction, speaks and tweets about nothing but Israel anymore. And if you challenge them at all, you're an anti-Semite, because they cannot debate you on the actual facts. If Donald Trump did not waste 3 months on the Iran-Israel bullshit, all right, then he would have been able to address, even if, Robert, the policies didn't work, and yet, because we have tons of charts that we have to show people, even if that didn't fix the trend on any of these charts, at least Americans would have saw that his focus was on that and them. But he didn't. And he's got a bunch of idiots, losers around him, professional losers who took the credit for his second win. And honestly, Randy Fine's a great example of how all of this all goes to shit. There were other people who were better, who were MAGA, but the president's advisors and this is going to get me in a lot of trouble. I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for saying this right now. And as soon as it comes out of my mouth, this is going to be a problem for me. All of these advisors get all of these contracts with these campaigns, and then they go and run and tell Donald Trump who is or who isn't America first. James Bacon isn't there anymore to say, Mr. President, bullshit. Tony's got that contract and he's lying to you. Bacon is out now. So Bacon's not in his ear. There's nobody in President Trump's ear to say, whoa. Randy Fine is a known Jewish supremacist and a known Israel firster. This is not a guy at all who's going to support your real agenda that Americans, and especially all of these young people and independents who are running away from Donald Trump now in droves, voted for. They will not be rewarded by your support of Randy Fine, because he will not support you in any of those. He will spend the first year of your presidency being one of these voices, bomb this, bomb that. I remember, and I'm just going to toss it to you after this, I remember sitting in a green room on Real America's Voice. Twice this happened to me with Randy Fine. We were in the green room. We were there to talk about polling and issues and everything. And first of all, he's a royal dick. The way he speaks to his people is outrageous. I don't even know why they work for him. You got to hear, he's like I don't even want to use the word pariah. He's like a Madonna, bro. He's a prima donna. He's over there yelling about his makeup and this and that, and scoffing about the talk in between segments, about the talk about hey guys, this doesn't look good, because one of them was during our poll in May. And it's this doesn't look good. Trump is now negative. It's slightly, but you can see that people are worried about cost of living and this and that. And he's like, scoffing at it and mocking it and talking about, how like if we rescued Israel, the whole country would reward them for it. Like, this is a waste of time, and the real fight is against Israel's enemies. And I kid you not. And like Bannon and I are just chuckling, like, are you kidding me? Like, we're just laughing at him. But it turns out it wasn't funny, now was it? And I'll kick it to you with that, because I mean, the disconnect, first of all, hello, welcome, say hello, but are you more optimistic than I am? Or like, where do you stand on this? Because I think the legislative agenda is dead. Trump killed his second presidency. Democrats will take the House, they'll impeach him, and we'll be stuck with 2 years of bullshit until they manufacture another COVID in the fourth year. Like, that's what they're going to do. Like, or not a COVID, Robert, but something like that. Like, he walked down the same primrose path. It's unbelievable. I'm sorry. That's how it is. So that's how I feel.
Yeah. So we'll start with the sort of bigger, broader context. Look at the 2025 election results, what they signify, the alarm that should be heard from that. Then look at 2026. If nothing changes, what that looks like, and what can change that can change 2026's outcome.
Yeah.
And and both in terms of traps and in terms of potential benefits. That should it be a legislative agenda? Should it be an executive agenda? What should be the priority if he's going to try to bring back 2026? So first, on terms of the broader context, we've really had a broken political system since the late 80s, early 90s.
Yes,
and that as Kevin Phillips talked about, 1992 should have been a democratic realignment towards economic populism and cultural moderation. That Clinton, it's the economy, stupid, that he campaigned on. But once Clinton got in, Kevin Phillips actually compared him to Grover Cleveland's hit or miss in the late 19th century.
And that would be right. That would be right.
Yeah, no doubt. And so Clinton had an opportunity, but he went the neoliberal donor route rather than the voter economic populist route. Yeah. And that afforded an opportunity for George W. Bush to create a new possible populist coalition of national security voters. He was going to not police the world. Remember, he was against gun vote liberalism. Was going to radically reform the educational system, radically restructure certain aspects of the economy. And George W. Bush also went the donor first route. And the net effect of that was the complete collapse of that coalition in 2006. That people like Ben Shapiro don't understand, that was dead and done and gone. That afforded a third realignment opportunity for Barack Obama. Barack Obama came in with massive mandate, huge margins in the House and the Senate, huge vote, great optimism and idealism. And he too ran on what? Being against wars, being against foreign interventions. That was his angle. That was
New Hampshire because of it.
Exactly. Gave him the leg up in Iowa and New Hampshire against Hillary Clinton that he otherwise was. He almost came out of nowhere. People forget he was a huge underdog when he started.
Yeah, John McCain's turn, bro.
And he had the sort of black working class, which is the left populist base of the then Democratic Party. And remember, we got Occupy Wall Street, these sort of tear down the system. This was after the global financial crisis, afforded a great opportunity.
Obama, you mean? Yes. For
Obama.
I'm sorry. I meant George Bush won, putting together the Ross Perot coalition. He won New Hampshire. Sorry, my bad. I was out of context.
Yeah, exactly. The same broke for Obama, that the reason why he won Iowa and the reason why he did well was running against the war and economic populism. In fact, he opposed the trade deals that were then in place for Colombia and South Korea. That said he was going to restructure those deals to refocus on American workers. And he was going to take on Wall Street that had just gifted us the global financial crisis and not have a financialization of the economy. He gets in and he completely betrays and disappoints people, only holds on in 2012 because black voters wanted to see their first black president win re-election. That was always
women. Yep.
And that was always going to be a one-off. That was not something, if you've watched black mayors races, that were sustainable. So Clinton blew the opportunity to realign the party and realign the country in favor of a Democratic constant majority. Then George W. Bush blew an opportunity to realign the country that was gifted to him on a platter. And by 2006, that coalition was gone, dead. The kind of politics Mark Levin talks about died in 2006. Died on the battlefields. It died on the battlefields of Iraq, and it died in the global financial crisis. Then Barack Obama could have had a really the most gifted opportunity to realign the country, also blew it because he chose donors over voters, chose neoliberal bureaucrats, unleashed wokeism as a substitute for meaningful economic reform and improvement in everyday people's lives. And that gifted the opportunity for Trump to realign the country and build a new populist coalition that by 2024 had really reached its peak because it included the original MAGA of 2016, which was bringing in working class independents and ancestral Democrats from the industrial Midwest. And by 2024, adding to it the very groups Democrats thought they would have with the Obama coalition of 08, millennials, Zoomers, younger Gen Xers, the Hispanics, and Black men. So that and made inroads into Asian voter groups as well. So that's what in 2024, that was his coalition. I don't believe anybody in the White House outside of J.D. Vance and Robert Kennedy understand this coalition, understand who they are, understand what their voter interests are.
Not a clue, brother. Not a
understand
clue.
why that they voted for Trump. And so, that's the context in this. Now, whether Trump, I view Trump as a transitional rather than transformative figure because of the choices that he's made and because of how broken the system is. But that doesn't mean J.D. Vance can't be that transformative figure. I believe he can be. But in terms of the lessons from 2025 and as we bridge into 2026, the broad strokes are that don't let anyone tell you this was a blue state phenomenon. It was not.
Let's actually bring that up. Where is the swings everywhere?
This was a Democratic wave of unprecedented portion in the modern
era. Unprecedented.
You had mayors that had been in office for 30 years get thrown out. You had sheriffs get thrown out. DAs get thrown out. School board members get thrown out. Commissioners get thrown out. City office, county office, state representative office get thrown out. You had Republicans that had held office for 30 years in Virginia get thrown out. Democrats in the modern era have the biggest majority they have ever had in the history of Virginia House of Delegates because of what happened in the heartland of the state in Republican Trump-leaning districts.
Can I just stop you real quick and just tell you, right, dude, Obin Shane was defeated. Bobby Orrick was defeated. This idea that this was just blue states winning, Democrats winning in blue states, like as if it's, first of all, the whole argument is flawed. It's the entire pretense of the argument is flawed. There are blue states and there are red states, but we don't have a single state where the entire state is blue. We don't have a single state where the entire state is red. Like there are parts of blue. There are red states that are in part blue. There are blue states that have red areas. California, one of the bluest states in the country, has red areas. By the way, they voted blue, and or at least swung toward the Democratic cause in Pennsylvania. I mean, it was just disgusting. And as a matter of fact, you have a chart I'm looking for. Why can't I find it? Let me just see the total of it. We're going to be all over the place, guys, but it was everywhere.
Yeah, we got a bunch of charts and maps. That the biggest swing. So there were some groups that did not swing. So the groups that, in fact, some groups voted more Republican than they had for Trump. These are very upper income, wealthy boomer con areas. The district where they filmed Sopranos trended Republican, right? So the mob's happy and super rich people are happy. That's it. Everywhere else bled out. And it bled out in Georgia, bled out in Texas, bled out in Pennsylvania, bled out in the interior of California.
Let's look at some of that. Let's look at northern. Oops, and I would put it in the other way, but whatever. Let's do it like this. It's just going to overlay over us, okay? But like, what if I do that? Yeah, bang. Okay. Here's northern New Jersey. All right, essential and northern. You can see parts of Monmouth, which everyone was falsely calling deep red. Okay, Monmouth swung hard to Joe Biden, and Donald Trump did not perform well in Monmouth the way he performed in 2024. And again, a big part of this, New Jersey's such a great example, Robert, because this idea that like there were these idiots who surround Donald Trump who were saying like, well, Trump's just going to increase turnout more if we get him involved in New Jersey. The only reason New Jersey was 5 points is because Donald Trump was even able to get out an educated female voter who doesn't vote that much. Like it's all in the voter validated studies. I don't know why people are so damn lazy. They can't look it up. So this is another reason why I think Republicans are totally cooked, because their margins aren't that bad without Trump and certain midterms and stuff like that. But the problem is the share of the electorate, right, that you get, who is coming out. And Trump improved his margins with educated white voters, not because he changed all of their minds. He did change some of their minds. Persuasion was an element of it, but he actually got people to vote in area that don't vote, even though they have a college degree. And that's, guys, that's a Herculean task, because this is already a very high prop voting group. So to be able to squeeze even more out of the stone is incredible. And we went back and looked after this, Rob, when he ran all over the map in the midterms for Senate races. He was able to do it then too. You can see it. So like, even though he wasn't on the ballot, but he had a campaign for all these losers. He had to run, and he still had the trust of the base, which he's losing now. And that's the big problem. Like the Rush Limbaugh nightmare scenario has happened, where Rush Limbaugh warned and said the only way that these voters will leave Trump is if Trump breaks the bond. And Trump has broken the bond. I'm sorry, he has. It's done. I mean, we are not with them all, but with enough of them, plenty of them, that it's over. You know, I don't know what else to say. Like, I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I have been talking to voters personally. We're doing focus groups. We're doing a ton of work right now. It's bad. It's really, really bad. It started with Epstein, which then he screwed up. He made fun of his own voters for it. Let's call this how it is, Robert. Let's not dance around this shit. All right. He mocked these people for simply asking for him to do what he said he was going to do. And then instead of taking the advice of Charlie Kirk and myself, which was, you know, something we desperately tried, right? He called them panicans. He called us panicans. He further insulted them. And instead of pivoting, which was the most important part, pivot to making their lives better and just say, you know what? Very simple advice. Tell them that these files were put together by the same corrupt FBI that you know is dirty as shit. It's going to take us a while for us to sift through it. But in the meantime, let's focus on making your life better. They didn't. They went from one issue where they felt like certain people were getting their way to foreign policy, which was also at the behest of those same people. So this is what, and then the floor came out from there. He bombed Iran when 30% plus of his own voting base did not want him to bomb Iran. Robert, you and I spent hours and hours and hours live going over the polling data and saying, look, to have this low of support, even though it looks like strong support to you, historically, for a military action, this is a disaster. Historically, support for these actions are overwhelming, and then they decline over time, which this one did too, but they never start this low. The reason it's that low is because 30% of your own voting base doesn't want you to do it. Now it's way more. If you polled them again and say, what did you think about that action? Like, most of the party is going to tell you it was retarded. It was stupid, and it distracted him, and it helped lead to this. So like, I just don't want to sit here, because I'm at a point now where like I just feel so bad for these people. I don't know if you saw some, I'll show them to you, some of the elaborated responses that we got from polling. I feel really bad for these people. They believed in him. They believed that he was going to come back this time and throw a wrecking ball through everything. And he got played by the neocons, Robert. I mean, that's it. I mean, so I feel so bad for these people. And then what happens? All of these idiots with their hot takes, they go and trash these people, including young people who's like, oh, just go find a job. Oh, like they think you can walk in a fucking resume over up to the head of Oracle or something now. Like, these people live in another world, a world they created because they wanted cheap shit. They wanted free stuff. They wanted, you know, they resisted any meaningful reform to help the long-term viability of this country. And they don't give two shits what happens to their children and their grandchildren when they're gone. And those people got their way, and the younger people are abandoning the coalition now. I'm just not going to stand for it, bro. Like, I'm not. Like, 28-year-old Timber Hills, Pennsylvania, Norwegian Catholic. I did send that guy to you. I did. You read his response? He's angry because he's heartbroken. That's why. Yeah, it's more than just an anger and he's racist or he's anti-Semitic. No, he's pissed off. You told him you were going to put him first, and you fucking didn't. And here we are.
Yeah, so like looking at New Jersey outside of the upper middle class areas, like here's Patterson, very working class area, heavily Black and Hispanic. And you can see, the Trump made massive inroads there. Only lost it by 30 points in 2024. Ciatrelli lost it by 70. That was a 40-point swing. And this same 40-point swing you can find amongst Hispanic voters, 30 to 40 points all across the country. You can find it throughout New Jersey. You can find it in pockets of Virginia. You can find it in pockets of Pennsylvania. You can find it in Texas. You can find it in Florida. For the first time, even Cubans are fracturing. The Miami is about to elect a Democratic mayor for the first time in 30 years. That's the Hispanic vote that massively shifted to Trump was more Democratic than it has been since pre-Trump. That's how bad that was.
Yes.
And then, just some of the maps we showed right there. Also, working class white areas bled out. Indeed, you had a 1-to-1 correlation between where voters dropped off in supporting Republicans all across the country. That's why people are saying, "Oh, it's race dependent, it's candidate dependent, it's election dependent, it's state dependent." All wrong. All wrong. This happened everywhere. It didn't matter the candidate quality. It didn't matter the candidate money. It didn't matter the voter organization. It didn't matter the candidate organization. It didn't matter the local issue. These were people who came out to vote a protest vote against the Trump administration and the Republican Party. That's the reality of it. Anybody pretending it's anything else is in a la-la land, in a dangerous
or lying, or just lying.
Yeah, well, a place like South River. I mean, these are places that Trump did very well that flipped around and voted for the Democrat. Working class New Jersey also. As the income goes down, the vote shift goes up. In other words, there's almost a 1-to-1 correlation. So if you're over $200,000 income, you saw some places where they voted more Republican. But then once you get to 150, it starts to drop. 100, it drops bad. 50 to 100 drops way, way bad. And the lower income, middle income people are getting hammered, and no amount of gaslighting is going to convince them otherwise. And the cost of living for them has not gone down. Whoever told Trump to put out that Walmart thing gave him bad advice. The price of turkey, according to Trump's own U.S. Department of Agriculture, is up at least 25%.
Yeah.
That's the main item for Thanksgiving. The cost of living, and we have some of the charts to give you an idea of how much these working class people and younger people are getting squeezed.
Here's one I wanted to show you real quick. Okay, just like every demographic shifted to the left. Every single one, even 65 plus, who gave. This is important, okay, because there's a big conversation about boomers right now. Boomers versus everyone who's not a boomer. All right, and seniors and stuff like that. Robert, I mean,
boomers basically didn't budge. They stayed about the same. Everybody else, they bled out. Yeah. And Hispanic, they bled out. Black men, they bled out. Asians, they bled out. There was like an Indian precinct.
Look at that again. Look at that.
New Jersey was a 50-point swing. So for millennials, Gen Xers, Zoomers, all massively shifted. Hispanics and disproportionately Hispanics, Asians, others disproportionately. So that's why I say it was a combination of the people he bled the most were New MAGA. 2024, New MAGA coalition, Hispanics, Asians, millennials, Zoomers. These are the people that massively jumped ship and turned out to protest, if they turned out at all. Amongst the 2016 voters, he even bled out there amongst working and lower middle class and middle class voters. As it showed up in South Jersey, it showed up in places like Bucks County, it showed up in places across the country, it showed up throughout Georgia, where there's a 25, 30-point swing.
Let me put that up, actually. Let me put that up. Georgia is just remarkable. Where's Georgia? Where are you? Apparently we had so many charts, Robert, that's what's going on here. I'm having a hard time finding them because it didn't upload them together. We ran out of space. But I got to get Georgia. I have to put this up because first of all, Georgia, we cannot consider a red state. All right. That's number one. But also there are commissioners that, guys, Republicans have never lost. Never. Here's Georgia's the swing. First, let's put up the swing. And they lost them. Here is the swing from the 24 presidential election to the Georgia public service election, District 2, by the way. So bad. There's more. Hold on. There's actually more. But like, I remember getting a call from a buddy in Georgia, and they were like apoplectic. They were like, we're going to lose way more than, than we've ever lost before if this continues. And it's like, the problem is, guys, Virginia is a great example. Now in Georgia, that office, public service commissioner, is actually really important in the state of Georgia. The problem is when you lose these offices, Robert, in Virginia, that's an even better one. You lose all of the infrastructure. You lose all of your organization. You lose all of your constituency. They don't, the idea that this is just going to organically swing back is stupid. And then, by the way, all of those local House of Delegates candidates, they have their own organizations, which is a big problem. Republicans don't use them for everybody. Like Jack Citarelli did not have all of his district and Senate and House members working for him the way that Mikey Sherrill absolutely did. Members of Congress, they have it was like all hands on deck for Democrats, and Republicans have this like innate competition thing that always goes on. And but now they're gone anyway. Now those organizations are gone anyway. So when Bannon says you're effed for a generation in the state of Virginia, you are. And the demographics were already going against you, right? Which I do have to, if you don't mind, indulge me for a second here. Let me just show again. I don't want to show things I'm not ready to show yet, but here's this week. It's unbelievable. The percentage of people who said that Trump is still focused too much on foreign policy than domestic issues at home, that it didn't budge from 18%. Now it'll tweak a little bit after it's weighted. So maybe it'll go from 18.3, which is what it was weighted last week, to maybe 18.1, something like that. But it's unbelievable how little anything moved. And here's the ranked choice distribution for most important issues. I just want to show people that because I don't want to forget. I did promise some people we were going to do this. So there it is. All right. So this is over 3,000 responses for the week. You can see Republicans are getting nothing, by the way, that's what you're seeing a piece of right there, guys, is the amount final leans for the generic ballot. Republicans are getting 13% of the leaned vote in the undecided vote for the generic ballot. They're getting 13%. That's what they're getting. All right. So I mean, I'm laughing at this point because people don't look at where foreign policy is, Robert. This is a ranked distribution, which maybe others aren't familiar with. We asked them to rank them, and then that gives them a ranked distribution score. And that is how you find out what, not just one issue, but what is the table of issues that people are looking at. They're all economic. Cost of living is by far, it's even more this week than it was last week, number one. The economy and jobs is right after that. Healthcare is number 3. Anytime healthcare has ever been in the top 3 in ranked distribution in our polling, Republicans got blown away. And then crime and safety. This is weird to me that this is the second week in a row. I don't know why this is coming up like this. Maybe you can offer some insight, but I just didn't think that was that big of a deal. And then immigration and border security is number 5. So, and foreign policies after that, guys. I mean,
yeah, remove it. It really was. And I know that there's some people that want to come up with 100 excuses, say this couldn't have been a wave. It wasn't a wave. Everything is fine. Everything is kosher. That, I underestimated the wave. In other words, because I listened to people like that. People like, what is Dustin in the chat? Oh, no, it's not really that bad. Cost of living's okay. Everything's fine. Nobody really cares about those issues.
And Larry Schweikert, he's not going to be on X anymore.
You're dead wrong, pal. You got torched. And if people follow that kind of advice, you'll get torched again in 2026, and you'll get torched again in 2028. And you'll still be saying, everything's fine, everything's okay, everything's all right, you're exaggerating. My mistake was underestimating the coming wave. We're right about what happened in New York City, right about what happened in New Jersey, right about what happened in Virginia, but wrong about the margins because I didn't see it being this bad because idiots like that were saying, oh, it's just fine out here. Cost of living is down. The economy's growing. Everything's fine. You're living in a fantasy land, pal. As long as the White House is in that same fantasy land, they're cooked. So that right now they're on track to not only lose the House, but they're at risk of losing the Senate.
They really are. Can we talk about this for a second?
Ohio won't flip right back. Texas won't flip right back. Are living in a fantasy land. These were one-offs. These were things that if you did not seal the coalition, Ohio would go back to being a swing state. Iowa will go back to being a swing state. Texas, which was always expected to be a swing state, will become one again. You can't bleed out 30, 40-point margins amongst Hispanic voters and think you're going to hold an easy margin in Texas. That is delusional. And if you think the working class voters of South Jersey and Pennsylvania that voted in mass protest, didn't matter what the office was. Your interview with the Bucks County guy was perfect. That was a guy that was locally popular, locally well-liked, and people came up to him and said, we just got to send a message. And sorry, maybe next time we'll vote you in.
It's unbelievable. Did you hear those testimonies, people? They like Paul. He survived every blue wave for 24 years. A 24-year office holder. He was swept out, and the people were coming up to him and saying, we're sorry, Paul, but Trump lied to us. Republicans lied to us. When a freaking township supervisor gets punished for what you did in the federal race, I've never seen it before. I have never seen it. You don't have gubernatorial elections being impacted, let alone, public commissioners and township supervisors. Like, those are disconnected. When Tip O'Neill said all politics is local, funny little thing here is that in academia, one of the saying is what he was really talking about is gubernatorial elections. It's like they don't have the partisan fervor and the strict, loyalties that federal elections have. You could have a governor's race going on the same cycle as a senatorial election. North Carolina is a great example, and Roy Cooper will win, but Tom Tillis and Ted Budd and the rest of them will win at the federal level because the state is still, slightly Republican. So that rule was demolished last week. Demolished. Here's Luzerne County. Actually, I don't know why I'm putting them up like that. Since we're going to do it like this, I just deleted everything and I wanted to re-up everything. Let's look at Luzerne, which is such a big deal for the like you said, seal the coalition. How you just put that is such a huge deal because one of the great areas that we could talk about where all Republicans are going to lose all of these areas where Trump attracted areas. He brought them in starting in 2016 and they were never Republican. They were never going to be Republican until Donald Trump. And this coalition was not sealed. I like that. I keep saying like the realignment wasn't completed. The coalition was not sealed. They tried to have their cake and to eat it too. And David Gilliard just texted me because he's listening and said, look at Lackawanna. Look at Lackawanna. David, I hear you. Let's put Luzerne up. Look at this.
Yeah. And for people that don't know, Luzerne County is old school working class up near Scranton, Pennsylvania, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre area. Mm-hmm. So it used to, going back a century, was part of the Republican industrial voting machine. When the Republican Party turn of the century, 19th century, was part of the industrial party, the manufacturing party, the William McKinley party. Then during the New Deal, they swung heavily Democratic. Yep. This is labor heavy. This has a big ethnic mix, and it's very representative. How you like the fact that Biden was overperforming here in 2020 meant Trump was in trouble. But you look at what Trump won this by 20 points in 2024, and then they flat out lost it. And the Republicans lost it this 2025. That is the kind of shift. When you see 20, 25-point shifts, no matter what office it was, didn't matter whether it was mayor, county supervisor, sheriff, DA, you had offices that had not voted Democrat in 100 years that did. And if you're trying to pretend it must be normally all politics is local, this one wasn't. This was a wave election. And it's a massive alarm because you look at who shifted and the part of the problem was your donor-driven constituencies didn't shift. So the people that the Congress is listening to, the people the White House is listening to, didn't see a shift. It was the voting groups, non-donor constituencies of the working and middle class who shifted massively, particularly a combination. This is old mag. And what I mean by that is people who joined the Trump coalition in 2016. We saw in 2024, they dropped off. But you look at low propensity. What was driving?
I should have done it like this to begin with. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is what drove these low propensity voters. What they're concerned about is cost of living, and they tie immigration and jobs to cost of living. Trump has done, 80% of his agenda on immigration. He's got that is the one area that he has really done well. They need to highlight that more. They need to have more high profile cases, so on and so forth. But on the cost of living is where he has stagnated. And on jobs, the unemployment numbers, the unemployment expectation numbers of consumer sentiment.
Let me put that up. Let me get that.
You dig into the working class and younger voters, especially. But we just have those are the worst they've been outside of the global financial crisis. So if you think cost of living is great, fine. That's not what the swing voters think. And this is the expectations. Again, this is the highest expectations outside of the global financial crisis in 1980. You know, I mean, and in the mid 70s when things were a mess. These led 1974. You see that spike? Massive wave election. 1982 was a massive wave election. 2008, 2006, 2008, massive wave elections. That's what we're on pace for right now.
Yep.
And it's because people are not happy with where their job prospects are. They're not happy with the cost of living. They're getting squeezed by credit every which way you can imagine. The student loan default rate is way high.
Can we show? Yeah, let's show some of that. Let's show some of that. Let's look at guys. Look at what Robert is talking about. Okay, because we have massive number of charts here. I got stuff I put up. Robert sent me probably 30 charts. Like, I'm serious. We have a lot of shit we want to show you because this is unbelievable how you could go to the microphone and say, I don't want to hear about affordability.
Yeah.
After getting your ass kicked the way you just got your ass kicked. And that is because he's insulated and because the people around him listen, they've been telling him you have, because I hear it. I have people like calling me and like saying, I can't believe it. What, isn't there something you can do? Can't you send a tweet? Like, what are you talking about? Do it yourself. You're way closer to this. They got Trump's own pollster showing him bullshit numbers. Then that very same pollster goes and works for AARP, works for the Wall Street Journal, and
works for foreigners that he's lobbying for. Tony Fabrizio outed as lobbying for foreign interest as we speak. These are the people that are tied right around the Trump administration. This is what Swampy Susie was going to deliver. Someone who only cares. Swampy Susie has a checklist. It's not Steve Bannon's 2017 voter checklist that he had in the White House. It's a donor checklist. Yeah. Did we check off? Why is it he's saying something is tone deaf as let's do 50-year mortgages and keep you in debt for life? Because that would satisfy the banking donors. It's not going to do anything for affordability, Bill Pulte. But I mean, he should smack himself in the face for proposing that idea.
Meanwhile, look at mortgage costs as a percentage of household income.
I mean, the chart we just showed in this chart, all these costs are at the highest level.
They overlap perfectly.
I mean, outside of the global financial crisis, people can't pay their car bill. People can't pay the rent. People can't get into a house. People can't pay the credit card bill. People can't pay the student loan bill. And they look out there and they don't see any prospects. Yeah. They were thrilled when it was Elon Musk and Doge is going to take apart and destroy the system and its corruption. Then the moment Musk talks about using Doge to audit the Fed, to audit Fort Knox, to audit the CIA, to audit the Defense Department, Soros Scotty Bessent stops in and he literally gets into fisticuffs with Elon Musk to stop it from happening because that's who he is. Trump brought in Bessent to represent Wall Street. Marco Rubio to represent the military-industrial complex.
Unbelievable.
And Swampy Susie to be the sort of corporate donor director. And he's let them run his administration for the last 6 months. And if he keeps at it, it will be devastating in 2026. Now, as people have asked, what about the Democrats? The great advantage Republicans still have is you have an equally inept and incompetent Democratic Party that will misinterpret these results. They'll look at what happened with Cheryl and they'll say, look, if we just put these CIA national security candidates, that is not what voters want. Democrats won despite the weaknesses of their voters. If you want to see where the future of the Democratic Party is, go across the river to New York City. Mamdani ran on left populist positions. I get, Marxist, Muslim, all that. That's fun, little rhetoric, etc. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But what he campaigned on was old school left populism. He said, let's take the richest, most powerful people and tax them. He didn't see the mistake of bureaucratic liberalism is it wants to tax everybody to have programs for only a few people. By contrast, left populism only wants to tax a few people to give universal programs. You can think it's good or bad economics, but it's always been good politics, just being frank. And these young voters, they don't care what Mark Mitchell's been hammering at. They don't bow down to the idols of cartel corporatism that we call crony capitalism.
Maybe that's why.
Exactly. I mean, look at these are the highest rates they have been. I mean, you had the COVID, which created a fake number.
It's a distorted data point.
All of these numbers are higher than they ever were under Trump's first administration. People remember pre-COVID Trump as being great for the economy, great for cost of living, great for wages, great for jobs. Now it is crap because it is objectively is crap.
Yeah.
That's why you see with independents, he has such an incredible, and with his own base, he even when in his worst first time period, he was never that underwater on the economy. Now he is way underwater on the economy. And
look at indies like you just brought up. Where are you? I'm trying to like get rid of because we have so many charts, guys. We're at like the max. So when we share them from you, I'm removing them and then bringing in some more of these new charts as we bring this up. But he's look, this is worse than what we got, and I can actually show you what we got right now. It's in the 60s. His disapproval. So that's it's really close. We're lower than the aggregate right now. We're gonna have Trump probably at like 29. Or 30 with independents. And that is very difficult, guys. Once you hit these kind of numbers, it's very difficult to recover from them in a presidency. It's very difficult. And
you got to reverse hard and fast.
Yeah.
And you got to pick, and we'll get into some of the proposals, but just loosely, if the Democratic Party is smart, and that's a big question.
That's a big if, but yeah.
If they campaign on Ro Khanna, left Bernie bro, left populism, of the Bernie's more this 2016 version. I'm going to take on the big healthcare insurance companies, take on pharmaceutical industry rather than being in their pocket. Maybe with the left, where left populism is popular is when you're going to tax a small group and spend on a big group. The brilliance of Mamdani is he didn't create 25 little programs like Democrats love to do these days. That's only bureaucratic empowerment. Just from a political perspective, whether it works, different question. From a political perspective, he did universal programs, free buses for everybody, free universal childcare for everybody, increased housing for everybody. That was the smart part. He went back to old school left populist campaign tactics and techniques, and there you got to see the neoliberal Cuomo, who had all the money backing, all the media backing, still got whipped. That was not close on election night. The only question is whether he gets to 10 or not. Every prediction had for all the boroughs, those hit, the margin victory hit, the fact he was going to win easily hit, all that hit easily and well, despite Trump jumping in, who Trump had been told his endorsement of Cuomo would put Cuomo over the top.
I know.
Because of people like Atlas International were doing fake polls. So the reason why this is just a warning to everybody involved. If Democrats are smart, they will return to economic populism. Whether it's good policy is a different matter. Politics, it's good politics. And they will learn from the Mamdani lesson. And the second thing they'll do is the other thing Mamdani did, the same thing that left party that's really an elite establishment party otherwise, but managed to steal a bunch of votes from Wilders and in the Netherlands just did. They ran against Israel. Running against Israel is a winner.
And Cuomo was doing Israel first rallies in New York City. And by the way, he won the Jewish vote. Look at how much Mamdani won. And by the age that you and I have been smashing for, and Mark Mitchell has been as well, their age signal is like one of the biggest signals in polling right now is the age signal on Israel. If you are under 50 years old, you do not like Israel. End of story. And now it's being turned into gross hate.
That's independent. That's Republican. That's Democrat. Israel is a political pariah. If you're pro-Israel out there, you want Israel to go down as a discussion talking point. You should be doing the exact opposite of what Mark Levin and that crowd is doing. The more you talk about Israel, the more people get enraged at Israel.
They're creating
Israel by talking about it incessantly, like Chuck E. Cheese in the chat. quit talking about it, pal, or you're going to kill the popularity of Israel in this country and elect a bunch of anti-Israel politicians.
It's done. Robert, it's done. They already did it. Like, the question is, will you shut up and lessen what you've already done, or will you continue? Because Mark and I decided last week, we were like, look, we both got these projects coming up. Let's try to find out how many anti-Semites they're creating, because they are. And there are people in the polling who are telling us that Nick Fuentes doesn't even have a huge ID, by the way. He's got a big audience, but as far as a national ID, it's very low. Now, they've been raising it very narrow.
Until the last 2 weeks of Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro constantly talking about it.
They did this. I mean, the number of people who say they just heard of him is the biggest, it's like 70%, guys. Like, the rest of the country does not know who he is. Get this, though. And you can see it over 5 days. Mark's been doing Tucker now for, I think, 2 or 3. The percentage of people who say or agree, I think Nick Fuentes is an anti-Semite, yet still like what he's saying, has been growing every day. That is because of how the PR campaign by the Israel First lobby has instructed these people. There are accounts that I used to like, there are people I used to respect. Every single tweet is about Israel. Every single one. Not because they're a public opinion pollster who's trying to put out the results of something, but because they're getting paid, or directly or indirectly. I don't know. Maybe, let's see, they maybe fund your documentary films, or the news or the radio station that does your documentary films. I mean, come on. I don't know who he thinks he's fooling. All right. Every single one is about Israel. And what they're doing is downplaying the very real concerns. We have tons more economic data we should show people. Tons of the concerns that stem from this economic data and the anger people have administration for not addressing this when they said they were going to be America first. Their anger is being called anti-Semitic, and that is making people anti-Semitic, right? Because it's like, all right, you're doing well. You don't seem to give a shit about me. So maybe a lot of the things that Nick Fuentes says, I don't know, is true. And when I try to point that out, I get called a Jew hater and say, oh, so it's the Jews' fault. And what I'm going to say to this right now is, yes, it's the people who are pro-Israel's fault. Absolutely. It's the people who are Israel First's fault. Absolutely. It's always been like this. It's like human nature. But in American politics, you should know that that is the exact you're always going to elicit the exact opposite response that you're intending to when you do this to people. Especially, by the way, Democrats did this, guys, leading up to Trump's election in 2016. If you were talking about how immigration suppresses wage growth, then you were, what was the term they used? Not even, anti-immigrant, but like you were xenophobic in some case, right? If you had an issue with Muslim immigration because you were concerned about your safety in the wake of San Bernardino, you were Islamophobic, right? Like, this is the same tactic that the left used, and Trump harnessed the anger from that. And that, if it's not addressed, that anger turns into hate, and hate is where we're headed. I mean, that's it. Like, somebody like Mark Levin, he's afraid. Like, you can see he's like really afraid, and that fear leads to hatred of other people, which is why last week on the show, which went viral, I called Mark Levin like a Jewish supremacist. Like, he's the textbook example of somebody who fears something that's irrational. By the way, most of the times this starts out with irrational fears, like the Fourth Reich is around the corner or something, Robert, right? Like, if you keep this up, then you will give rise to a lot of people who feel that way. I mean, that's just true. Yeah, that's the way it goes.
Free advice to the pro-Israel crowd is quit talking about it all the time.
All the time.
I love it. The people are like, everyone else is talking about it. No, you guys are talking about it more.
No.
They've even done the X analysis, and it's the same thing. Now, the fundamentals, so that's sort of the broad strokes of where we're at. The demand and appetite for populism has gone nowhere. Instead, it is growing and expanding.
It's growing.
But what people need to recognize across the board is it can as easily go left as go right. And so that if if Democrats are smart, they'll embrace that left populism rather than neoliberal, bureaucratic, donor-driven elites that drive their party. We'll see.
But they have been, though, Robert. They have been. I'm not saying they'll do it as a matter of policy, but as a matter of campaigning, they have been. That's all they talked about. It is contrary to what everybody wants to like say. Oh, Mandani's a Jew hater and he's crazy and he's a Marxist, and they don't give a shit about that. He's talking about their bills. And then, by the way, most people don't even think Mandani's anti-Semitic. We're polling that now. They don't. And Mark is as well. He's underwater apparently in both. I don't want to speak for Mark. He is underwater in our polling, but his age approval is through the roof, and nobody really thinks he's anti-Semitic. I'll tell you what they think. They think that those attacks were used by powerful people because they don't want to address the economic concerns that voters who support him have. That's what they think. It's not even close. I just want to show people why I'm putting this. Tell people why I'm putting this up. As Robert was talking about some other stuff. With employment, we were talking about employment by age. Look at long-term unemployment rate, by the way. All right, just to validate like what we're trying to tell you, the concerns of these, they have valid grievances, folks. This isn't like Robert said, it's not like it is the reality. I forgot exactly how you wrote it before, what you said before, but you can't pretend like something isn't reality when it in fact is. All right. And then why I'm showing you this, the long-term unemployment rate, you can see this huge spike. And by the way, this thing, yes, it doesn't matter that, things weren't good under Biden. We're well into this now where Trump had a year. Every one of these problems is his problem now. And that trickles to the party. And the party, it's their fault. They, what they were willing and not willing to support, consume the first year of his agenda. But this now belongs to Trump and the Republicans. And by the way, we can confirm that, brother. Like if you look at our unemployment indexes, you can clearly see. Why would there be a spike in long-term unemployment? Because they quit looking. Look at the spike and not looking. So not only am I unemployed, I'm done looking. I'm done. And maybe that's because, look at the Challenger report, which you sent. Look at this.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest layoffs in 20 years.
In October, since the financial crisis. And the crazy part about that, Robert, is that October is always the month where people start gearing up. They're looking forward to the holidays. They need to hire. Even part-time sucks. I mean, this is just a Challenger report, which is, look at the warehousing and technology sectors. Just completely, warehousing should be good this time of year.
It's part of what JD also didn't fully get. This is not just an affordability crisis. It's also an employment crisis.
100%.
And unless both issues are addressed, and what people need to understand is that a lot of these new MAGA voters especially, but also a big portion of his old MAGA coalition, remembered Trump as great for the economy and Biden is terrible for the economy.
Yes.
So what they expected was reversal of that, and they didn't get that. Instead, unemployment is rising in these voter groups. Wages are not outpacing the cost of everyday goods for these voter groups. Housing cost is even more unaffordable than it's been in the past.
Yep.
So they can't afford a car. They still can't afford a car. They still can't afford a home. They still can't afford, a high-end utility events. They still can't afford. Now they can't afford to go to the restaurant or go out to eat. This is a problem.
Robert, they're delinquent on everything. Wait, I'll get the chart. They're delinquent on everything, bro. This country's delinquent on like every friggin' loan you could possibly have. This is really bad. Of course, the jobs matter to them because they need not just a lateral move. They need the opportunity to move up, and they're not getting that. Look at this. Did we show this already? Auto loans, student loans, credit cards, and mortgages, by the way. Look at the delinquency rates. 90 plus days. Guys, wow. Look at credit cards, been an issue. That's just like,
but it's spiked to the highest level it's been since the global financial crisis.
Yeah.
The student loans that, I understand, stopping the delay and deferral on that, but there needs to be some creative answer on this that other than, hey, just suck it up and pay the bill for the college suckering you into this huge debt. Auto loans. I mean, in the entire financial system, there's a whole bunch of auto loan subprime lenders that are collapsing. That is impacting the repo market and the financial liquidity in the market. And then the only reason why the mortgage delinquency is so low is because nobody will sell their house. I mean, like I saw somebody say, well, we need to increase inventory. There are far more sellers than buyers at the moment. I mean, no one will buy a house. So that's the problem. And so because the prices are way too high. And they need to have a serious thought process for this. But yeah, you see these young people, you're seeing a record level of the 90-day delinquencies. So, some working class kid sitting at home can't afford a house, can't afford a car, can't get a decent job, credit card debt spiking. The used car he's got debt spiking. Often the debt is worth more than the car is. And now he's got to deal with student loan debt on top of all of it. And they thought Trump was going to fix this. That's why they elected him. Instead, what do they see? Trump going to China, Trump money for Argentina, money for Israel, money for Ukraine. I mean,
bomb Venezuela.
Sanctioning half the world for what? For Ukraine first. The war he promised to end in one day. He has betrayed these voter groups, is how they feel, and they're not wrong. And if he doesn't reverse course and hard and fast, he is in deep trouble. Now, here's the utility. He's got about 6 months, number one. Number two, there's a bunch of things he can do within the executive branch that he doesn't have to depend on the lazy legislative branch for.
But that's all bullshit, Robert, because all of that can be reversed the next go around. You know it and I know it, So like the next Democratic president can vaporize it.
Short-term things he can do between now and in 2026.
But this is why the right is losing, contrary to the fake America First Australian podcasters that are apparently being paid to try to influence public opinion in America as well. Like, where do these people pop up from? He's like, the right's winning. What are you bitching about? The right has been losing in this country for decades, literally since the progressive era. The right has been losing one decade after another. And it's because, first of all, the left, when they've governed for longer periods as like a trifecta, that's number one. But when they do have these trifectas, they get meaningful change that is very difficult to overcome or repeal. Voting on legislation, guys, and then that's why it's important to change Congress constantly. But voting on legislation is incredibly difficult to undo, right? You're not going to repeal Obamacare. Look, Republicans had huge majorities and they couldn't get it done, or huge for the modern era. They couldn't get it done. This is why rent seekers, they're making out like bandits and have been more and more since the passage of the 17th Amendment, because the higher average tenure is in the Senate, the easier it is to keep these legislative agenda pieces, of each of these agendas in place. Because you literally have 90+% of the people who passed it in the subsequent Congress. So it makes it incredibly difficult to get them to change their votes. It's not going to happen. So this is why I'm stressing and was like blowing up over the first year, because without meaningful legislative change, the right continues to lose. They didn't make any legislative reforms to the judiciary branch. People wanted massive changes, massive accountability. On the accountability side, they can indict who they want. Mike Davis can be on Twitter all day pretending like there's going to be accountability all he wants. And I know they're all getting off. They're all getting off, Robert. I will be surprised if Comey isn't let off scot-free and gets a new book about what it's like to be persecuted by Donald Trump and goes on to make millions over this. They're not doing anything that gives the right an advancement in culture, in government, in nothing. They're all short-term little fixes, fucking band-aids that the Democrats can come back in the next administration and rip right off. And that's including immigration. That's including his best issue. And the reason I'm showing this was to reinforce what Robert was saying, because they do feel betrayed. They're not wrong. And you can see it in the turnout. So for people who are like, but we got more people to the polls than we did 4 years ago, like that should be the minimum standard for success. You're not successful because you added a few hundred more thousand votes into an election, but Democrats just seem to add more. Look at the turnout was higher in the Dem-leaning counties than they were in the red counties. Monmouth was abysmal. And people were on X days before, like, look at this gangbuster turnout. Oh my, man, give me a break. Not compared to the urban areas in North Jersey where they sent Obama and they fired everybody up over those betrayals. And it's always easier to convince your side's independents to vote when your side is more enthusiastic. I can't This is basic stuff that we have to repeat over and over again because there's just, I don't know. It's just not sinking into people's heads, Robert. Like, I'm starting to feel like, I don't want to say this, but like, I'm starting to feel like this is kind of pointless. Like, I have to repeat the same thing every year, and people are retarded. And it's like, they don't sink it. It doesn't sink in. It doesn't change their thinking. Like, we're now back to arguing why Ron DeSantis would be a better candidate in 28 than JD Vance. Like, this is how retarded this party is. Like, they deserve to lose at this point. I don't know what else to say. Like,
well,
go ahead.
If they continue on the last 6 months path, because I think the first 3 months showed a lot of promise.
A lot of promise. And so did the polling. Yeah.
Had they continued, so that gives a roadmap as to now. So had they continued with Doge everywhere, particularly the Fed and the Defense Department, Fort Knox, the like, if the CIA, etc., but they can still do that, and that's entirely within the executive branch's control. So there are people within the administration who do recognize the risk, and who do recognize the alarm signal that this sounded. Now, you're right, the institutional reforms that are needed are not going to happen given the legislative hurdles. But that doesn't mean they can't at least take executive actions that in turn highlight the need for those institutional reforms down the road to stem the bleeding in the midterms. And part one is
stem the bleeding. Let's just make this very clear right now. You are going to lose, Republicans. The only question is, how badly are you going to lose? Like, this is the Cook Political Report is actually, I think, very bullish on Republicans' chances. I do. If you think like the spread is like 213 to 206, like, you're crazy. Yeah, I mean, that's just
now what I would say is that they're likely going to get a boost because the Supreme Court's going to invalidate the Voting Rights Act.
If they do that, that's a huge win. But like,
that will happen, about 95% chance that happens. So that puts them back in the game. But the key is going to be on the first thing for the President Trump to do. If you're looking at on the Democratic side, develop a more robust economic populism and policy proposals. Return to that. Quit being a big pharma whore. Quit being a war whore. Quit doing all of those things, or you're going to continue, because these people who turned out to vote still don't trust the Democratic brand. That's an important point to remember. Like, if I was sitting there advising a Democrat, be like, these voters are just protesting the current failure of the current power structure. They have not, outside of Mamdani, they have not embraced what you're pitching. So that if you, and they're going to mistake that as just like the Republicans 2010 thought it was an endorsement of conservative politics.
Yeah.
It was not.
It's not an affirmation.
Barack Obama.
Yeah.
So like this chart, growth in personal spending, you can see it's just been flat under Trump. The inflation rate is right next to, except for the people who actually trended Republican in some parts of New Jersey and parts of Virginia. The upper income people are doing great. Middle income is getting hammered. Working class getting hammered. And that's not what they expected from Trump.
Yep. This is
to at least help people believe he wants to change this. But step number one for the administration, get out of all the stupid foreign wars and quit doing the foreign tours and quit doing all the foreign policy garbage.
Kick every neocon out of the White House and out of your inner circle. And that includes, I remember people like shilling for Marco Rubio. This is insane. Rubio's given you every thing that he is latched onto comes from South Florida donors. You're going to bomb Venezuela. You bomb Venezuela and regime change in Venezuela. You should have heard them 2 weeks ago. They were so giddy. All these Florida people I know, right? And they're all white, by the way, which is hilarious. They're like, oh yeah, finally Maduro's turn. It's time's up. And I'm just sitting there like, what are you laughing at? What are you celebrating? You do this and it's going to make the American people think even more that, guess what? You don't give two shits about them, and nobody believes it's about drugs. It's not about drugs. Just stop it. There is an Israel connection in Venezuela, by the way. There have been some Israel lobby people who have been saying that Maduro harbors and funds Hezbollah and some shit. I don't know if it's true or not. Yeah, but it's true though. Lindsay's
or hanging out in Venezuela.
Lindsay's here. Lindsay's hearing that from his Israel First funders, and so like that is, I know that's part of it. What isn't a part of it is a serious argument that this is about drugs, right? So if you really wanted to end the flow of drugs, you'd bomb Mexico, because that's where all the drugs come from. So I don't know where they've even taken over coke from the Colombians, bro, and the Bolivians. Like they grow shit, sure, but like Mexicans are in charge of drugs in this world. Like that is like the truth. They muscled out Colombian cartels, like the Pablo Escobars and the what was that other cartel that used to think of themselves as like, they hated Pablo because they thought Pablo was like too working class. By the way, this is a great example. Pablo Escobar, guys, is a great example of why you should heed our warnings. Pablo was a populist who loved his country. He wanted to be a member of Congress because of who he was and his background. They threw him out, even though he was like duly elected. They didn't give the answer. They didn't provide solutions to the suffering of the Colombian people, and Pablo was able to rise to the status that he was able to rise, being a bad guy, not being a good guy. They knew he was a bad guy. They didn't give a shit. He made them public housing. He funded public housing projects for them. Like, this is like, that's a lesson here. If you don't listen to people's grievances and you just care about the people who are doing well, like you see in this chart, then ugly things happen. That is the way history works. Unfortunately, guys, the light blue, the dark blue, the dark blue is like dying in this country on this chart. They're dying. It's flat, but they're shrinking all the time. And like the share of people who are in the bottom. Ooh, you had a great chart. That's perfect timing for what I'm saying right here. The top 10% that own stock, top 1% earners. Here we go. This is the chart I was looking for. Looks like I got to get rid of one. But the share of people who get to share in the American dream is cratering. And like Robert said, they thought that Obama was the false promise of like, narrowing the wealth gap, and that really happened under Donald Trump. They thought Biden just continued the same policies Obama did and nothing changed. And that's why they thought Donald Trump was like the remedy for this, because it was changing under Donald Trump. You guys may be surprised to hear this, but in his first term, the wealth gap was narrowing. It was shrinking. Like for the first time in
up until
years.
COVID.
Yeah, up until COVID, which then exploded it again. But look at the top 1% of U.S. earners now have more wealth than the middle class combined. Look at this. And that was going on. A great example of why like Obama was seen as a fraud. Look at where the line intersects, right? And, it's just, that's Trump is in by then, and like he did slow that down. I know how this chart makes it look like it's a trend chart. So like he did slow it down, but if you can see, what is this, 4-year periods, Robert? Something like that.
Yeah,
what are they doing?
5-year periods.
5-year periods. Okay. Well, that's why you can't see.
COVID blew it back out.
Yeah. And
early on this summer, because of the immigration successes, there were real wage gains, but a lot of that receded in the fall. Because the levels of deportation and the levels of self-deportation have flatlined. So all of these economic concerns are real. People can pretend that they're not. People can pretend that they're media creations. You're not going to get anywhere with that. They're real. The objective data supports it. And people believe it, which is what matters the most. This is why when Richard and I were saying that the Biden campaign strategy, the Biden administration policy of trying to gaslight people would just make it worse politically for Biden rather than better. Trump early on, now it looks like he's starting to step back from it. But his first reaction was to pretend that there was no affordability crisis. Everything was great. The economy's the greatest.
The stock market, Robert.
Exactly. This is who owns the stock market.
Trump's voters don't have stocks.
In April, what was he saying? He was saying Main Street first. I don't care if Wall Street crashes.
Yes.
That was a winner politically. Why? Because almost nobody owns stock.
Yeah.
It's only Soros, Scotty Bessent's pals who care about the stock market. Ordinary middle America cares about a basic affordability of basic everyday living and want to believe that they have opportunities going forward in terms of employment, in terms of life. And we should talk about one another component is all these boomers. Well, why is it that Bill Pulte and Trump, don't want to propose the kind of reform that would lead to drastic housing price affordability. How do you get that? Much lower prices of houses. How do you get that? What does that do? All the boomers have all their capital tied up in homes. They don't want their prices of their homes to go down. They're like Dinesh D'Souza. Screw you. You don't get your inheritance.
I'll take your inheritance.
I mean, yeah. Hey, young people would be happy with their inheritance getting dumped because it's just debt and crap. Dinesh, go back to Dartmouth and hang out with those idiots. That's the mindset here. And so we have to refocus the economy on Main Street. Every policy is going to be two things. Will this improve the well-being of working middle-class Americans? And number two, will they at least believe you are fighting for them?
Yeah.
When you're focused, when you keep retruthing about the stock market, you remind them, I don't care about you. I only care about Soros Scotty's Wall Street pals. Yep. That's why I'm doing a big fancy ballroom. That's why I'm doing Gatsby parties at Mar-a-Lago.
Taking planes from foreign nations. I mean, which I know got reversed, but like
foreigners and rich people. You need to reverse the optics, and you can reverse the optics by one, stepping away from all these foreign policy wars, quit sanctioning countries on behalf of Ukraine, quit doing anything on behalf of Ukraine, quit it. It's an embarrassment. Aside from creating unnecessary risk of conflict with Russia, which we don't need at this moment, but retract all the foreign policy focus. It needs to be laser focused on the domestic agenda. Number one. Number two, it's got to be not how's the stock market doing. It's not how do we keep housing prices inflated for our bankster pals and our boomer donors. It's got to be how do we make it accessible and affordable for ordinary everyday people. And it's got now here's where we made one really good step. For 6 months, we have been proposing unleash the antitrust division.
Yeah,
you have a true MAGA DOJ antitrust head in Gail Slater that is old school OG.
She's amazing.
Antitrust.
She's amazing.
You've got cases against big tech where the remedy is about to come up in the next several months. I was like, launch a case against big ag. They have been jacking up prices and screwing small farmers for 20 years. Yeah. And a lot of them, Tyson, huge Democratic donors. Take them on. In his first term, Trump had that, retarded boss hog, Sonny Perdue, running the Department of Agriculture. It was a disgrace. Brooke Rollins has expressed interest in pursuing these cases, which is good. So unleash the power of the Justice Department Antitrust Division against big tech, big ag, and add in big insurers. There's a case currently pending on that we'll be talking to. But you know who's been sabotaging it? Todd Blanche and Pay for Play Pam Bondi. Reason why people like Mike Davis,
which is Susie Wallace's buddy.
Mike Davis is a phony. Mike Davis is a fraud. Steve Bannon should be embarrassed by constantly platforming this idiot. This guy constantly promises a whole bunch of things are happening that are not. The Comey case is proof of that. There was no preparation, just rushed into that. And he's out there lobbying and has his clients and working for their agenda.
Holy shit, you said it.
Arthur Schwartz, another one of these losers.
You said it.
And we're going to keep pulling them out. Because these people are sabotaging MAGA on a daily basis while pretending they are MAGA. No mas. We're not going to get a repeat of that garbage.
Let me give you guys
for people that were done because somebody made a donation someplace while you ignore compelling cases. So
can I just say something real quick?
Yeah.
Because I don't think people know this is going on. All right. Like this is a big, so I'm sitting here listening with bated breath to see if you were going to drop that because he's not alone. And I mean, he's just one of the bigger names. Folks, we're literally getting calls from people who are good people in the administration at the Department of Justice, at folks everywhere. And they are doing things trying to do things that are what he was elected to do and are running into two problems. One is like Pam Bondi in that case is the problem. Susie Wallace's buddy, by the way. All right. So like, And by the way, I've also gotten some info about some indictment stuff that aren't coming down because Pam Bondi is like not doing it. They're there. The cases are built and they're not there. So that is true. I've spoken to 3 people, 2 of which would have absolutely direct knowledge. The other one is plugged in to, so I know he knows too. And they're all telling me the same story, which is that Pam Bondi is holding up these cases and that it's the Justice Department itself at her level. All right. So we're being told that these people basically need air cover from people like us. You know, how are you polling certain things? On my case, when it comes to Robert, it's like, are you talking about stuff like this? We're not alone. All right. And I should drop Mark an invite link. He knows, he's getting them too. And what they're asking for is like, because they're stunned. There are a bunch of supposedly MAGA people on X that have like decided to work for the enemy and will come after them hard. These people are literally worried about losing their jobs if they do what Donald Trump was elected to do. This is how upside down things are right now in the administration. The other day, somebody was going to meet with Donald Trump. He wanted he called me because he wanted all of his I's dotted, his T's crossed. He wanted polling data he could share with the president. Like, he wanted all of this stuff because he was afraid that if it wasn't done right and flawlessly, he would risk pissing off Susie Wiles and she would destroy him. And this is a guy who's just trying to do his job. And guys, I mean, if I say it, I'll out him. But this is something if I said it, you would be like, oh my God, of course. The antitrust stuff, of course. This is a no-brainer. MAGA's filled with sellouts. There's no other way to put it. They're filled with sellouts. They're
AstroTurf MAGA. People that
are AstroTurf MAGA.
People that are gaslighting everyody like Mike Davis on a daily basis, covering for
I'm stunned to hear this.
Counterfeit Cash Patel, Dan Ballas, Bongino. I mean, look at how embarrassing it is. They still haven't reinstated many of the FBI suspendables. I represent Robin Gritz. They refused to say or do anything to try to remedy the fact she was wrongfully fired by Andrew McCabe. Cash Patel has actually promoted many of the most corrupt rogue actors that were involved in Arctic Frost against us.
Speaking of rogue, I'm going to tell this story now, and I'm going to tell it publicly, just because we need to give people more than just data and charts. Like, they need to hear these stories. So everyone got caught up in Arctic Frost. I don't care what you were like. It's unbelievable. By the way, if you and I did not kick rocks in Georgia when we did, you and I would have been indicted. We would have been indicted.
I could see a shit show coming six miles away.
I know, and because we're smart enough to see it coming, like, these people are crazy and they're not even over the target. But these are the stupid people who will get indicted because they're just totally incompetent and don't know what they're doing. But right. So anyway, after Charlie was assassinated, I started getting like bunch of like weird shit. Okay, and some of it you just laugh at and toss in the garbage and you move on. But like, some of it is not stuff that you do that with. And I like share it with JD, and I'm like, JD, like, think anything like these? Like, I've been getting stuff like this. You think it's like concerning? And he's like, I think I'm going to call Cash Patel and you need to talk to the FBI. Like, this is not good. Right. So, and some of it is like flattering, but like the damage, the danger could be that if I am unsuccessful in persuading people, like, then they can take it out on you or something. Like, I don't know, whatever. I get a call, and it's from this guy, and he's like, I heard what's been going on, and he's like talking to me like he knows me. He's calling me Rich, like a first time, like we're on first name basis. Like, he knows a lot about me, and I'm thinking to myself, maybe he did his research before the phone call. Maybe Cash told him to call, whatever. An hour later, I get another call from a totally different agent, right? And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yo, yeah, I already spoke to so and so," and he was like, really? He had no idea. It went through the proper channels, came down to him, funneled out on the other side. Folks, what I'm trying to tell you is one of those dudes, those Arctic Frost dudes, already knew about it before anybody even reported. So there's only one way they could possibly do that. And like, this guy works close with Cash, and Cash has been like rewarding him for his like performance well done. They came to that. I had a talk with them the next day. Neither one of them. And one of them was the guy I spoke on the phone with. Second guy I spoke on the phone with, he still had no idea where that phone call came from. These guys are doing things that, and they are looking at people like, dude, I'm a public opinion pollster. What the fuck are you doing spying on me? Like what, like, what are you doing? And it's just like, it's more than what the Congress has released. I'm telling you, it's more, because he should have had zero knowledge about that. Like, I don't understand. And then I never heard from him again until John Solomon. And he was like, hey, look at these guys, and I'm like, oh shit, I know that one. I'm like, I know this one. All right. And then I told the story and he's like, oh, that's creepy. That's not good, because it means they're keeping tabs on everyone. They're just keeping tabs on it. They're just totally out of the scope of their job, Robert. Like, what are you doing? Go stop a left-wing fanatic from murdering my friend. Like, go fight crime. They never stop anything because they're too busy doing this kind of shit. They're rogue, bro. They're totally rogue.
And instead of interfering with Joe Kent trying to do the right thing. I mean, the people that are inside the administration sabotaging MAGA principally are Soros, Scotty Besant, Narco Marco Rubio, corporate
Narco Marco. I'm sorry,
corporate swampy Susie Wiles, and unfortunately, someone who had said he'd be an ally has been turned into an adversary. CIA Director Ratcliffe. The people who are still trying to do very good work: Vice President Vance, Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert Kennedy, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, and people that are working with her like Joe Kent. He was trying to unravel the Antifa foreign ties to the murder of Charlie Kirk. The person who stopped that from happening, Kash Patel. Yeah. So all of these rogue actors within the administration are going to continue to out. But if the president is serious, the vice president wants to preserve his own future, there needs to be a massive redirection and reversal of policy. Swampy Susie needs to not be directing policy, period. They need unleash the antitrust division, number one. Number two, unleash the civil rights division. You want reform and remedy for the elections? There was all kinds of crimes committed in the 2020 election. Yeah. Unleash Harmeet Dillon, not just to go at issues with registration rolls. That's good, but that's only one small part of a much bigger problem. There should be a special division at civil rights focused on how they stole the 2020 election to prevent it from happening again. And Harmeet Dillon's the real deal. Harmeet Dillon is gung-ho. Harmeet Dillon has no fear. Harmeet Dillon gave up money to take this job.
Oh, for sure. Harmeet, yeah. I got to tell you this, though. I mean, like, it's a matter of how much at that level they're allowed to be doing. Like, that's what it comes down to. Because Harmeet, I got a personal story about this, too. So I don't want to blow up the university, but it is a Christian university. It is I would say it's like the spearhead culturally of the area, which is very important. I get calls. I did speak at this university once, maybe twice. I don't know. It's been years, but I get a call. All the DI stuff that Trump said he did, right? And by the way, this is Harmeet's purview, right? So like all of the DEI stuff in college campuses, and you don't get funding and all of this. They're rearranging it. They're like pulling the plaque off the door, guys, and then like molding it into other core courses. Like that's what they're doing. So, and they are persecuting conservative staff members and members of the student and the staff bodies, right? Like they're persecuting them over it. I delivered this to her on a silver platter. Like, I don't know. Like, and I didn't get a follow-up. They never got back with those guys. I don't know what's going on. It's a slam dunk. And for all the people bitching, all the boomers who are bitching and moaning about indoctrination, which they let happen, by the way. So I don't know what they hate all these young kids and think so badly of them, right? Well, who did this to them? And like that. So here's something on a silver platter, and yet they're being stopped from taking this university on. Like, this is crazy. I don't know what Harmeet, I didn't hear from her mouth. I just want to say this because I do think Harmeet's got the hardest job, like one of the hardest jobs. And like you said, she gave up money to do this. She would have made more money staying out of this job. Are you kidding me? Right? So this isn't a good thing for her. But I didn't hear from her mouth they're being stopped. I heard from somebody else. And Harmeet, guys, Harmeet has my number. She texts when she doesn't like that I'm doing something. And she's funny. She's colorful. All right. So like we're on that kind of basis. She could tell me, something is like, I don't know. This shouldn't happen. None of this should be happening.
She and Gail Slater have already been approved by the Senate. And so if you're going to do real dramatic change, You let Bondi go back to the corporate world she prefers anyway. You let Todd Blanche cash in one more time, which is what his main goal is. And you promote people like Harmy Dillon and Gail Slater to run the entire Justice Department.
Yeah.
But either way, unleash that division to get it election integrity, and then a civil rights division work with Ed Martin, because these were mass civil rights violations that occurred in the lawfare. Whether it's the Alex Jones case, whether it's the Tina Peters case, whether it's the Kurt Benshoff case in Seattle, whether it's all the Trump cases, whether it's Arctic Frost, all of those are civil rights violations by high-ranking members of the government. And the Civil Rights Division is well equipped to be a key participant in that. So unleash the Antitrust Division, unleash the Civil Rights Division on issues like election fraud and lawfare, and really empower Ed Martin. And make sure you have the right U.S. attorneys in these local areas so that they can pursue these cases at scale. Because imagine if over the next year you had indictments of George Soros, you had indictments of Bill Gates, you had indictments of high-ranking Wall Street corrupt actors, indictments of high-ranking big ag corrupt corporate actors, indictments of high-ranking big pharma corrupt actors, indictments of high-ranking big tech actors, along with civil suits, antitrust actions, things that could have consequence beyond what anybody can do down the road. But it's also Trump versus big tech, Trump versus big ag, Trump versus big pharma, Trump versus these corrupt actors in the deep state. They keep promising that they're doing something out of the Southern District of Florida. I hope so, because there need to be big indictments out of the Southern District of Florida as to all that. But right now it looks like just a Trump revenge tour rather than a deep state.
Brother, instead, and David, you're right. Instead, Bill Gates was invited to the White House. I mean, like, this is this is insane. Who in their right minds thought that was a good idea? By the way,
Swampy Susie.
Exactly. We know who it is. I'm being, I'm telling a hypothetical to get I'm telling an answer to get a question to get an answer. This week's 2024 recall vote is actually even better than the one before, which is weird. And this makes me nervous. So we usually in the recall vote, guys, get a little bit too much for Trump, but that's normal. Some people always say they voted for the winner when they really didn't. And Harris's was always really like too low. It's been about 44% this week because people don't. Biden got this too, though, during his time. That's the one good thing, is that no one's lying yet that they voted for Trump, and we know that they're lying because they're saying they didn't. That's not happening yet, like an embarrassment vote or a voters remorse thing. That's not happening yet, but I will say this. It did come down. So the people who are saying they voted for Trump and we know they didn't, that's not really happening anymore, which is a little bit of a red flag. And Harris's vote share actually is going up. I mean, these are small little things I always pay attention to, Robert, because it's like telling me at this point, my question is not a matter of what's going to end up with Republicans. I think that Trump's going to have to run around the country just to save the Senate. I think they absolutely, there are states they thought they were just totally locked down. There was no mathematical way the Senate can go to the Dems. I don't agree with that at all anymore. I think they're in trouble, and like Trump's going to have to save them. So from that, judging from that, we got to ask, like, how bad are they tarnishing Trump? Like, how bad is the Republican Party? What they did now in the first year, or really, it was, like you said, really just like the last 6 months, because the first 3 months were good. The next 3 months were rocky. The 3 months after that were totally neocon dominated. And then the last three since he was been elected, it's not full term, but like the last three since been elected has been like a combination of utter and complete chaos and neocons and getting their pet projects. So like, of course I'm saying a year. I mean, he was elected a year ago, but he took office obviously in January. So we're really 9 months. Let's be fair with him. The first three were great. The next three were shaky when people like you and I started to say, listen, you're going off track here. If you don't come back and come back soon, it's going to end in disaster. They didn't listen. And the last 3 months were that disaster. And now we just saw electoral evidence of it last Tuesday, and you're going to see even more in 26 if this keeps up. The sad part, again, is that the legislative agenda is cooked. I mean, the bold, big things they could have done. Why does that matter, guys? Because I said this after Donald Trump was elected, and I stressed it. I said, I don't know how much more I could have. The number one goal that Republicans forget about what specific legislation before you think about taking up a bill, before you champion someone's issue or their pet project. Ask yourself, is it going to help me achieve my main goal? And my main goal is, how do I get this party to be viewed by the American voter, and especially new MAGA, the way that they view Donald Trump? I mean, it was never even occurred to me that they would take Trump with them, Robert. Like, oh, not that it never occurred to me. I didn't think Donald Trump would let that happen, but he did. And now he's dirtied up by it. So my only question remaining is, how much more dirty are they going to get him, or is he going to let them get him? Because here's this first, overall versus the economy, first term, second term. The Washington Post exaggerates it. Ipsos sucks. It's one of the worst panels in the industry. But, I mean, it's not that far off from what we're at. We're like, actually, I can pull up where he is on the economy right now. Hold on.
And the main thing is, in his first term, he always stayed popular on the economy, especially
always.
Even when he was unpopular otherwise. So even the Ipsos poll recognized he was running much better on the economy. This was the reverse, by the way, of Obama, who was overall approval was much higher than his economy. Now Trump's approval on the economy is less than his overall approval. That's the problem. Again.
It looks worse than it did last week. Hold on, let me just add some stuff here. It looks worse. Approve. It's out of order, so I'm trying to add it. Maybe not. 45% approve, 50% disapprove. He's going to be like -5. I mean, that's not. Where is he now on?
In your data, I don't think that almost ever happened in his first term.
Never. He never went. The poll last week was the first time he has ever been negative on the economy. I mean, it's unbelievable. There's no way it's 37, 62. We're literally going to have it like 45, 50, and then, it looks, because literally 5.5% are undecided. So this is raw. I haven't weighted it yet, but it's very representative. So it's not going to get all that crazy and out of, whack. It's 45 flat who approve, with only 24 who strongly approve, 35% strongly disapprove, and it's 35 with 14.5% somewhat disapprove. That's actually really close. I think it's slightly worse than last week, but that's actually really close. So, but we're still, so despite them being always exaggerating and making it worse for Trump, we're still in, like, what they're showing and reflecting on this graphic. We're also showing it's just not as bad, but it doesn't need to be as bad, right? Like, you can lose. Like, it was the reverse with Obama. You would have like 47% approval rating or 45% approval rating, but on the economy, he'd be at like 38%, something like that. And yet he was able to get reelected, and so, the issue for me is they cut his Achilles heel. That's it. They cut his Achilles heel. Donald Trump was always thought to be the Teflon Don, but his Achilles heel was the economy. I thought like COVID demonstrated this, guys. Cost of living, inflation, those are all specific things that really do fall under these economic concerns. So we're asking it separately, but the economy is still like the main gauge here. That was when COVID happened. They slit his Achilles heel, and they finally got him. He would have won re-election without. I think he probably still would have won without the rules changing. But like, the bottom line is, they got him. They found his weakness. They found his kryptonite, and they got him. This time, the only difference is that outwardly, members of what claim to be, they are self-proclaimed members of his coalition. The first time the traitors, it wasn't a surprise because they were so open about it. They were never pro-Trump. They never claimed to be America first. They never claimed to be MAGA, right? But this time he allowed these people to co-opt part of his movement, and they helped Democrats, because Democrats would not have been able to do this alone. Guys, you really have to understand the distraction by the neocon conning Israel first, Ukraine first. They did this, and like, the Democrats didn't do it. It was solely a Republican demon of their own. It's like a book club, locals. This is a Republican demon of their own design. They made this. They did this. And by the way, that like panicking thing, right? Like, the only panicking I know right now is a Republican elected to the U.S. House of, or the U.S. Senate. They're shitting their pants right now because they think they're done. So who's the real panicins now? and they sat there, and it's like a combination, Robert, of like people who knowingly understood what they were doing. Like, it wasn't like they were unwitting dupes here. They knew what they were doing. They wanted their pet project because Israel mattered more than the American people to them, or they wanted their pet project because Ukraine mattered more than the American people did to them, right? And so
Argentine farmers mattered more to them than American farmers.
Christmas, Robert. Like, give me, who was one of his strongest, a group of people who were diehard for Donald Trump. They were diehard. So when we use the word betrayal, folks, it is not an overstatement. We're not being hyperbolic. They feel, these farmers are a great example. Cattle ranchers, great example. They feel they have been betrayed. And guess what? They feel that way because they were betrayed. And this didn't have to be like this, Robert. It's a big thing.
We discussed, priority one, get out of all the foreign conflicts, putting foreign people first to avoid that like the plague over the next year. Second, and find even opportunities where you can draw contrast. Like if Bibi breaks the ceasefire, say, okay, fine, we'll recognize a Palestinian state. That will get Bibi back in line. But find some opportunities to show your difference from them. Second, and that you're not obsessed with foreign policy. Second, really empower the Justice Department, the Civil Rights Division, the law, people like Harmeet Dillon, Ed Martin, and Gail Slater, who can help take on these big corrupt corporate institutions. Mark Mitchell's out polling about how it's across the board. They want to see big corporations taken on and do it from a right populist perspective.
Destroyed. Destroyed is the word we are actually using, and it's winning. Destroyed. They want big pharma to pay a price for hurting them. Like, because how many people were injured, hurt? How many people couldn't watch their own, loved ones pass away and put them in the ground correctly? Guys, they want these people punished badly.
And so you unleash Harmeet Dillon, unleash Gail Slater at antitrust, unleash Harmeet Dillon at civil rights, unleash Ed Martin taking on lawfare and deep state corruption. And then there's other allies you have, or potential allies you have. Unleash the Department of Agriculture, not only to support the action against the big ag cartels, but also reinstate the basic food freedom that we've already tested that's incredibly popular. Allow ordinary Americans, and by the way, I believe they can do this by pure executive action, because the custom exemption rule was meant to be this, which is throughout all of American history until 1967, when the bureaucracy misinterpreted the law deliberately to help their big ag pals that they cash in on when they leave. You as an individual and any farmer had a right to sell you their food directly, and you had the right to buy it directly without a federal permission slip, without federal inspection facilities that require you to scale up, that give big ag its monopoly in the first place. Just to say, hey, the custom exemption, they can use the high-profile nature of the Amos Miller case and others to set this as an example and support her in doing so. There are people in the ag department that want to see that happen. It's the corrupt rogue Swampy Susie friends that are preventing it at the moment. So that gives you food freedom and affordability. It hits two things right at the same time. Then make it clear to Robert Kennedy he's got carte blanche to do whatever he needs to do. That you are going to backstop him no matter what. You're not going to undermine him. You're not going to sabotage him.
Let others do it. Period. Because that's
right. Exactly. You got to make it clear. Go at it. And what does that mean? That means like he is trying to recreate, even without legislative remedy, propose it to Congress. I would include that too. But whole big pharma should have to pay the bill whenever its products that it's made lots of profits from cause injury, including in particular the COVID vaccine, but all other vaccines as well. You can propose legislation to do that, but you already have a vaccine court system that you could use the executive branch to do. Unleash that fully. Hold them to account. And put together let Robert Kennedy put together a COVID reconciliation commission that it can have people like Robert Malone and Brett Weinstein and others on it to document for forever what happened in COVID so that we can stop it from reoccurring. That's medical freedom that shows Trump versus big pharma. That's a win, win, win at every level. And many of the things you can do in the executive branch. So you can unleash the the good actors in the Justice Department, unleash the Agriculture Department and its best incentives, unleash the Health Department and its best incentives, and last but definitely not least, restore Tulsi Gabbard's role in running intelligence and directing intelligence. Let her be the filter of whatever nonsense Ratcliffe is trying to recycle from the Ukraine, recycle from Mossad, recycle from MI6, which has been garbage, 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 and garbage. Not only that, let her be in charge of the Epstein files to get them fully disclosed. She knows how to take apart a file if it's been doctored, because that's what she did with the Russiagate files. Be able to put her in charge and have a full report so people can have confidence in transparency and accountability. And last but not least, involve her in the Charlie Kirk murder and her office and Joe Kent in the Charlie Kirk murder investigation.
Isn't that the legal way? Can I ask you about this from a lawyer's point of view? Because I don't understand this, how Kash Patel could ever drive them away from that. And here's the problem, guys, which you don't want to hear about, some of you, but I don't give a shit. You're going to hear it. They got credible information about a role an outside force might have played in putting these pieces together. That immediately makes it the purview of the DNI. I don't understand how legally she's not allowed to follow these leads down. I'm not going down a rabbit hole, guys. I'm saying it may not even be true. What I'm saying is that's the entire purpose of the Director of National Intelligence, the office of the Director of National Intelligence. Susan Collins, where the are you? You're about to get creamed anyway. Don't you care? This is your pet project. You wanted the office of the Director of National Intelligence because you did not want people like Kash Patel doing exactly what he's doing right now, which is hiding information. So it was supposed to be, folks, for those of you who don't know, it's supposed to be somewhat of an oversight governing body of the entire intelligence community. And it's supposed to be the bottleneck of information. Nothing the FBI knows, Tulsi Gabbard shouldn't know from a counterintelligence point of view or intel point of view, dealing with foreign intelligence at all. All right. Nothing at CIA should be known and hidden from Tulsi Gabbard. It's the entire point of the office. And yet you have Joe Kent going up the road to do his damn job, and it turns into what it turned into, which was a screaming match. Stay out of my effing business. You're not dealing with this. You don't need to know. What are you talking about? The Office of the Director of National Intelligence is a legal mandate to know. I don't understand this, Robert. I don't.
They just fire.
It's corrupt.
Yeah, you just fire counterfeit cash. He's a complete joke at this point. He's the exact opposite of everything he promised to be. Said he turned the FBI building into a mausoleum. He bashed Christopher Wray nonstop for using the government airplane to take personal trips. Now he's doing it all the time at a scale even Wray never thought of. He's interrupting and interfering with investigations. He's announcing incorrect arrest announcements. He doesn't understand. He can't even get the mob right and the mob indictment. And he gets confused as to what it is. He's a complete joke. He's a complete crock. People are like, let's deport Mamdani. Well, why don't we deport his brethren from Uganda, Kash Patel, if we're going to go that route? The reality is he's a failure. He's been a complete failure. And Andrew Bailey's there as a deputy director. Promote Andrew Bailey. He is a smart attorney general in Missouri. He has proven his bona fides, taking on China related to COVID, taking on big tech, taking on big pharma. Bailey's the real deal. And so promote somebody like Bailey at the FBI, because it's not going to – you currently have one of the biggest scandals in history about January 6th being an inside job.
Yep.
That it appears that a CIA asset – why is she still on your payroll, Ratcliffe? The CIA asset who was implanted into the Capitol Police, who was the one who planted the pipe bombs, who was the one who shot the pepper bullets that set off the riots on January 6th, who is the main person to testify against him. And she is the key to unraveling that entire conspiracy as a Fedsurrection. And who is not investigating it? Who's covering for it? Counterfeit Kash Patel. That's who's covering for it. Kyle Seraphin, Peter, Steve Baker, all those guys. Is it Phil Steele or Peter? I'm getting some of the names I get wrong, but all the suspendable guys have documented this and detailed this and substantiated it. And God bless Julie Kelly, but Julie, quit depending upon your access to certain people at the Justice Department.
Yeah,
to slow walk you down a certain path.
Because they're doing to you what they did to what's her name, Sarah Carter in 2018, 19. They're doing that. And I mean, I don't, again, why did these things work over and over again, Robert? It's not a different playbook.
I thought Cash was going to, someone asked, well, why do you think he was a good appointment? He said he was going to totally, he said he was going to turn the FBI building into a mausoleum for the deep state.
Yeah,
He
it
said
hasn't
he
been
was
doing
going to arrest and imprison all these gangsters that have been ruining the FBI. And he's done just the opposite. So, I mean, we've given him 9 months. They understand it's difficult, it's tricky. All right, well, we'll give him some leeway. Enough's enough. He's proven he can't do it. He's incapable. He's incompetent. He doesn't have the willpower. He loves the perks instead. He's a sellout. That's just reality. We got to call it like it is. And if they continue to be in positions of power, they'll continue to contaminate the Trump agenda, continue to undermine that. And what we'll end up is 2026 will, right now, if nothing changes, 2026 is going to look like 2006.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
The Senate. They could even lose the Senate. Just going to be investigation after investigation after investigation, impeachment after impeachment. And unfortunately, because maybe Trump doesn't even know this, there's going to be some fire where the smoke is because of some of the things Pam Bondi, pay for play Pam, has been up to at the Justice Department and in other departments too. What Ratcliffe has been up to, what Rubio's been up to, what Besson is up to. I mean, some of Besson's buddies are making money on the side on the Argentinian deal. I mean, there's all kinds of scandal after scandal just waiting to bust up. And there's no reason for that to dominate the second 2 years of Trump's term if he simply returns to his MAGA roots, honor and respect them, do everything within his power. And here's something else. Let's say the Republicans in Congress are blocking things. Make them your enemy too. That the MAGA voter doesn't care about these Mike Johnsons and John Thunes. You know, Thune's busy worrying about the next Botox shot he's going to get. What we need, those guys as your adversaries are winners. As Huey Long said, 1934, and sitting in the Senate, he said, I got to decide when they come, and when they come with a rope to hang all y'all. Am I going to hang in here and hang with you, or am I going to go outside and lead them when we come in? The Trump should have the same mindset. If they're being obstacles, make them a political adversary. It is a net winner for you to be up against Mitch McConnell, to be up against Lindsey Graham, not raising funds for him. So on and so forth. That's the way. And don't focus all your attention on Thomas Massey. That is embarrassing. That makes you look like Bibi's in Israel's little bitch. It is humiliating for you. Don't keep antagonizing the libertarian wing of your party. You need them over time. Instead, focus on the true adversaries, the corrupt institutional insiders sabotaging things. But there's tons of things he could do within his executive power. But the first and foremost he could do that would restore confidence of the American people is quit getting us entangled in all these foreign conflicts.
I would just add to this that, like, he has to make them the enemy at this point. Trump, if any of you hear this, you have to blame someone for this last 9 months. You have to blame someone, and you have to do it convincingly. You are losing people yourself. This is what is going on now that never happened in the entire, whatever you want to call it, the decade of Trump, right? We're going to enter the decade of Trump now. The entire decade of Trumpism has never included what is going on right now, which is that voters that specifically came to the Republican Party for him, and I would add another group, voters who were Republicans, but done because of Bushism, done because of Romneyism, done because of conservatism. They came back and hung with you and said, all right, now this guy I can get down with. They fucked you and you let them fuck you. And if you don't blame them for this, you're going to be blamed with them. There's no other way out of this. So the Ted Cruz's who told you to do a stupid thing. You know who these people are. The Lindsey Grahams, you're literally holding your first fundraiser, not for a guy who's going to have a competitive race now in a state that's going to be purple because of how you guys governed, but for Lindsey Graham in a deep red state who's part of the problem. You know, I mean, this is something that America First is going to have to clean up if you continue to do this shit. And that's going to be the legacy. He has to blame them. So I would just add the entire healthcare industry, not only big pharma, the entire healthcare industry. Donald Trump has to not declare war on Venezuela. He needs to declare war on the healthcare industry. The problem isn't the subsidies, Robert. The problem is that we need to be subsidized. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
to that precise point, there is a pending major antitrust case brought against the insurance companies that I am helping put on a silver platter for the Trump administration to get involved in.
Yep.
And that would be a huge PR winner, political winner. but it's a great policy winner that could radically reduce cost in the healthcare space and improve access and improve patient privacy protections, which are at jeopardy because of other things that are happening with Palantir, et cetera. All he's got to do is embrace it. So he can do all kinds of things to unleash MAGA and stop the distractions from MAGA, but it's going to require taking on the donor base and on behalf of the voter base. That's what he's going to have to do. Say no to the MI6, say no to to Wall Street, say no to the corporate whores, say no to K Street, say no to the institutional insiders in Congress, and say yes to the American voter who put him there, who stood by him when they impeached him, stood by him when they indicted him, stood by him when they tried to imprison him, stood by him when they tried to murder him. They have stood by him in his time of need. He needs to stand by them in their time of need.
And
that means standing up to the rogue actors. And that is a path that can resurrect what is otherwise a decaying and dying presidency.
That's it, man. I have absolutely nothing to add to that other than like specific policy suggestions I could suggest. But what you just said really just summed it up. And that's, you just summed up all 3,000 plus elaborated responses, some of which I really wanted to show. I know we're out of time. We got to go through the questions, but they feel that, 91 felony indictments, Robert, and they still elected him. Like they stood by him when he needed them. And I know what he'll think. I understand. Like, I didn't need to do this to my life. I didn't need this. I'm in this position because I'm trying to stand up for people. That's how Donald Trump would react to that. But listen, at some point, I don't want to get down this road too much, but like the whole I got saved by God thing really spun him up. And like, there is a point where human beings can begin to think they can do no wrong. All right. And you've done wrong here, Mr. President. You have done wrong. And these people, when you were talking before, I put annual car insurance premiums up. The whole show, we've just been flashing these, people hurting. They're not making shit up. They're not yelling about a focus on Israel for 3 months because they're making stuff up or they're anti-Semitic. You go down that road and like, I don't even know. Like, I can't even take that. I can't take that ride with you. I'm American voter first. I'm not America first. I'm American voter first. And like, I made fun for years, Robert, of Democrats for being so out of touch and in a bubble. You had Barack Obama try to do the same thing Biden did. Oh, it's you. 2% growth is great. All this fake wage growth, you don't feel it. What's wrong with you? That shit doesn't work. It's an insult. And it's bottom line, it's like inhuman. You're being indifferent to the suffering of your own people. And you're the leader of a movement called America First. No, can't do it, and you will be punished for it badly. 06, that's a good standard. But I will say this, I wouldn't be surprised if it was worse because we have seen nothing on the level of what we saw last Tuesday, despite all the people who are trying to justify their bad polling and say, oh, this was a normal swing. No, it wasn't. All right. Maybe at the top of the ticket in Virginia, you could argue there was something normal about that. But then you forget that one of the candidates actually fantasized about killing his political opponent, and he still won handily. So it's not normal. You're not seeing all the angles here. Not to mention all the down ballot races that you and I did. One that we did not show was let me get rid of this. Sorry, my bad. I always do that. Bucks. This was just an utter disaster. I had Paul Caldareo on the show on Inside the Numbers last Friday. You guys, if you didn't see it, you should go check it out. That was what Robert was bringing up before. Texas. Look at the special election, the precinct level turnout. We showed by county before, but look at this. And this is their major mistake. I told them this was a mistake. Their entire metric, the bar, guys, that they were using for the redistricting effort, which was judge ordered. So like, it's not what Democrats said, try to portray it as, but they used Trump's performance you never performed as good as Donald Trump with these voters. So I don't know why you thought, especially Hispanics, I don't know why you ever thought that was the benchmark to use.
From New Jersey to Florida to Texas to California, the Mexican American, Puerto Rican, even parts of the Cuban community, Hispanics moved massively back. And so the But yeah, so there is still always reason for hope and optimism. And the great benefit of Donald J. Trump is the man can turn on a dime.
Comeback,
Sometimes it's not always the best way, but sometimes it's a vice, but it can be a virtue. And if he listens to the voters and he listens to J.D. Vance and he listens to the advice that we're putting out there, he can absolutely turn this around, in my opinion. Now, there's certain institutional reforms and other things that is going to be left to his successor because of the circumstances and situation in Congress. But there's a lot of things he can turn around that will make his last 2 years not a nightmare and provide hope to the people who voted for him. I got to hop off. I'll let you answer the question, but I got to.
Yeah, brother. I'll see you soon. We're way late. All right, Robert Barnes, sportspicks.locals.com, guys. I'll go through the questions. We'll do a bit of a lightning round here. And by the way, Robert, at the very first one, Robert and I are gonna be out your way in the spring. But all right, Joe Spinella says I live in Minnesota and going to be an underdog. When I say Minnesota, it's going to be a surprise and swing Republican in the gubernatorial race. The current crop of candidates are good, and I'm pulling for Kendall Quayles, going it alone. All right, I will say this, Joe. Listen, Minnesota's like my great white whale. I'll be out in the spring to talk about this and other races, but your state in general. So will Robert. So will Steve Bannon's going to join me. And we're going to both, as a matter of the kind of the macro of it, but also the very, very technical. Minnesota needs some effort in order to take advantage of a lot of positives that you guys got going for you in that state. Their biggest challenge is obviously going to be that takes money. The problem, and I hear you, and I'm glad you're optimistic, but the problem is if this continues and they don't course correct the way that Robert and I are saying, you have to radically course correct. If you don't, and Trump has to make the establishment the enemy again. He does. And so he palled up with them and he effed up big time. But if he can and neutralize the environment, then, I hear you. And there will always be bright spots where there are negatives everywhere, or at least you hope. There wasn't for Democrats in 24, and there wasn't for Republicans last Tuesday. But it didn't help if they were great candidates on Tuesday. It didn't matter if you were a good candidate, a bad candidate, a well-funded candidate, or a not well-funded candidate. Look at how bad Winsome Sears got absolutely demolished by Abigail Spanberger, and she had a lot more money than Reed did, who was running for lieutenant governor. He had nothing. And he actually outperformed her in some very notable places because he did the retail politician side of it. He had no money. He knew he had no money. And he was basically just the most transparent and accessible gubernatorial candidate we've seen in a long time. And it's actually really sad. He held this forum in Spotsylvania, which is now supposedly, this one area that's Republican. It's not now. And it used to be a must-visit area. And I read this piece about the good old days of Virginia when it was, it was read at the federal level, but Democrats campaigned there, won governor, close election that year that he did, and it was just like a major difference. And Reed had brought it back down to what it used to be, and he did better than several of the other candidates that had way more money than him. So interesting. Life of Brian says there is no one currently happy with President Trump that would not have been happier with President Cruz. That's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. I'm telling you. And the Cruz, these people who are people that came to vote for Trump, got engaged in the process with Trump, but are mad at him specifically because he was not supposed to do this. He was not supposed to be the same old Republican president who allows 3 months of his peak administration to go by being bogged down by bullshit like, that Ted Cruz wanted to happen. He was supposed to be the guy who was laser focused on the suffering of the voter and the suffering of the, the forgotten man and woman. And he has not been. We just went through all of these charts. These voters aren't wrong. If the voters were just being duped by a psyop, guys, I can't. I mean, there's been plenty of times in my career where I'm like, this is just not fair. This is the result of the media handicap. Their anger now is fair. It is like a righteous anger. It's a justifiable feeling. They were not given what they said they were going to be given. And that's Trump. Ultimately, I think Trump forgets sometimes he's the boss, man. He can do whatever he wants. And he allowed this to happen. So while some people are like, oh, it's bad advisors and bad advice, that's all true. But at the end of the day, this is now the second term of the man's presidency. He's even been afforded an outsider's point of view where, like, he had no idea coming into Washington, D.C. the first time around how these people play and behave. He does now. I mean, look, his first fundraiser of the year with Republicans in dire trouble is to support Lindsey Graham, a career piece of shit and vehement never-Trumper who is simply pro-Trump now as a matter of survival. And listen, this is the kind of guy Trump will fall for. He's super friendly, even though I'm shocked by one thing with them, which is that, like, Donald Trump doesn't drink and he doesn't like public belligerence. Like, Lindsey Graham's I'm just going to say, Graham is drunk all the time. Tucker was not wrong about that. He's funny as shit. All right. He's a real, like, you'll like him. If you met him, you'll like him. He's funny, and he's funny to be around. I'm sure he's a very good time when him and Vladimir Zelensky get together and exchange, like, tutus and shit and stories. But, like, the party's in trouble, and his first trip to fundraise for somebody is Lindsey Graham over a guy like Paul Dans, who was literally the last guy in the room who turned off the lights after everybody abandoned you. In 2020. And even Paul was Trump before Trump was even a cool thing. Paul was part of a very, very, very small group of people who were running around, scouring the country, looking for somebody like Trump to be the Republican nominee. And I don't know why people don't tell more of these stories, but, Trump just kind of got crowned by this group of people. And they were like, he's it. And then he decided he was going to run. And, he decided in 2015. And I know that because I went to cover a CPAC, and I was listening to Donald Trump's speech back then, like he wasn't what he is now. It was like half the room's full. And he said something that stuck with me. He was like, I don't want to do this, but the country's in such bad shape. We literally cannot survive another dynasty presidency. It cannot be another Bush. And if I don't run, all of these losers, they're clowns. He was mocking them all. Marco Rubio, right? Ted Cruz. And he's like, they're all clowns. Jeb's going to steamroll them. And then he's going to go on and get his ass kicked by Hillary Clinton. He was so funny in this speech. And he said, I can't remember. I could probably find the article for you because I wind up telling people at PBD, listen, you got to write this up for me. This is what he said. This is what we got to publish because this was the takeaway from Trump's speech, and he is going to run for president. I wake up the next morning, and there's like, I don't know, 1.5 million hits on that story. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Trump saw it, and he got the idea that everyone was still mocking him and calling him a clown, and and this is a joke. And he recognized that I saw what he meant. That I understood, like I saw him, like, you ever see Avatar? I see you, that expression, like I saw him, and he grabbed it and he retweeted it, and he was like, this is exactly right. Everybody was making fun of him, and we all know what Lindsey Graham said about him at that time. You know who wasn't? Paul Dans. I mean, I got 1 million of those stories where where Trump went on to hurt the movement by supporting people who hate his guts and have duped him and have completely fooled him. I've literally been told by people that they in the White House, not by people, I just don't want to say who it is. I've literally been told that they call Lindsey Graham the Democrat whisperer. And I hope I don't give you away by saying this, because I know it's only a few of you who know this, but like, meaning that he has helped him so much with Democrats. He's done nothing. Absolutely nothing with Democrats. He hasn't won him a single Democratic vote in South Carolina, and he sure hasn't delivered him any votes in the U.S. Senate. Any votes he got from a Democrat like John Fetterman were in spite of Lindsey Graham, who, again, John Fetterman hates. Or I'm going to say hate. I don't want to speak to the man like he's got hate in his heart, but he hates what they stand for. And John Fetterman would be a Republican right now if that element of the Republican Party was defeated and the realignment was completed. All right. Or what did Robert say? That, the coalition wasn't zipped up. That's so true. But I'm telling you, Brian, that's not true. There are always going to be those traitors and turncoats. They were always Cruz fans. They were always Marco Rubio fans. They were always anyone but Trump fans. And now they're trying to be like their MAGA, right? Like, let me just put an end to this right away. You have all of DeSantis's old simps from 2023 and shit coming back out of the woodwork. Ron DeSantis would get 50 plus, maybe if he's lucky, million votes, and he would get creamed. There's not a single industrial Midwest state, especially in the upper Midwest, that he would win. He would lose, and he would lose spectacularly, like I claimed and was right to say in 24. Ditto Nikki Haley, ditto Ted Cruz. There is only one way forward for the Republican Party, and they're doing their level best to destroy him right now. JD Vance is the only one will hold on to those states. The rest of them will be rejected in spectacular fashion. And oh, by the way, because of all the working class Hispanic districts we just went through, some of them were in the Sun Belt. There was a special in Texas, in Georgia, where there's a rising Hispanic population. Think about Arizona and Nevada, the gains they made there. Did Republicans do as well as Donald Trump in those states with these voters? No. And even Kerry Lake, who was able to do well with them in the gubernatorial election, did not. Sam Brown got wrecked. Absolutely destroyed. Huge percentage of Hispanics that said, I'll vote for Donald Trump. I'll vote for not Sam Brown. Happened in the rising population, the rising share of the population in Michigan now. That is Hispanic, many of which are Puerto Rican, but working class Puerto Ricans. Mike Rogers actually did win them like Donald Trump. Problem is, he won them by single digits. Donald Trump won them by double digits. And they're gone. That single digit win for Mike Rogers is cooked. That poll you saw the other day, totally fake. Mike Rogers is getting destroyed in Michigan. Destroyed. I'm sorry. I'm not going to even entertain this bullshit with their fake polls. And they all do it. Conning, they all get the same people. The Terrence Group, what's his name who polled for DeSantis? I call it piece of shit strategies, POS strategies. That's all fake bullshit. Like Ron DeSantis was really only -2 in Minnesota. What impact does the government shutdown have on these results? Also, a great question, Dave. Also, if the government shutdown ends this week, whom does it help? I would say that in a year from now, the government shutdown probably will not, unless they can twist it in the narrative, which I can see how they could do. I'm just not going to say it. It had a big impact. We heard from people. We were polling in Virginia the entire time. Sometimes I was able to share results with you. Sometimes I wasn't. We ended Abigail Spanberger 10.8. She outperformed our poll even. We constantly heard about jobs. There were jobs. And that brings me to something I want to show you, actually. Those are jobs that voted against them in Virginia. Those are all government worker people, guys. They're all government worker people. They were hurt by it, and they were hurt bad. Then you had people who were on, EBT or SNAP, right? And without a doubt, they were scared. Even Trump voters, they have family members. They have, maybe whatever, maybe their parents are on fixed incomes, and they were very concerned. It hurt. It did. The government shutdown hurt. And it did because it motivated Democrats to get their constituencies out. It hurt even more. It was going to hurt, period. But it hurt even more because of the turnout differential. Republicans just were not energized by Charlie's murder. Republicans weren't. In fact, that worked against them. I could tell that. It's a whole other situation. But I do notice that a lot of people don't understand why that worked against them. Charlie's murder was taken by Republican voters as another confirmation that Republicans are cowards and they don't do shit. They don't defend them. They have lost at every turn culturally and politically. And now we're at a place where it's open season on visible public conservatives. And they are processing this all the while looking at their last great hope, which is Donald Trump, do everything Charlie said not to do. Everything. And not do things that Charlie cared deeply about, which some of them we put up there before. student loan delinquency, the inability of young people to buy homes, to pay their car insurance. So, they did this to themselves. But in Virginia, you have people. Look, Virginia is a blue state, and it's a blue state, contrary to what other people say. Donald Trump did not hurt Republicans in Virginia. The government shutdown wasn't only on Donald Trump, but that's not. They wanted part of this party wanted a loss because they wanted to be able to do what Barbara Comstock did. All right. So let me show you Barbara Comstock, and then we'll come back to what I said to her. But she said, and she's been around for a while. Look at people that look at their reaction. She's a freaking joke, but this is what they believe. And it's a Politico article that she is quoting, which should tell you everything you need to know, Dave, right? Like, this is Politico is the go-to place for neocons and the McConnellites and all the establishment to run to when they want to malign people who are real right, like fighters of the right, whether they were MAGA or conservatives back in the day who used to actually be conservative. By the way, before Ted Cruz totally bent over and took it in the you-know-what for K Street, he used to be one of those guys, and McConnell used to run to Politico all the time to smash him, including over a government shutdown, which he started because he was trying to keep his promise to the voters of Texas by repealing Obamacare. All right. Now Ted Cruz is a sellout and apparently more concerned. I just think he and other senators should basically register for FARA. They're foreign agents at this point. Barbara Comstock says Virginia R's will attack each other and say the obvious now, but ignore the toxic, she uses the word toxic, elephant in the room. Trump, who put forward Doge, all the federal cuts and transit tax, the tariffs, i.e. tax increase, the ICE assaults on gardeners. Listen to how this woman talks, along with the longest government shutdown. Virginia Republicans lose seats when Trump is in office, but none dare speak his name as the major cause. Okay, this is hilarious, and I'm going to dissect that because this goes with the whole thing that Robert and I were talking about. Not purging Barbara Comstock, and I don't mean purge by coercion or force, guys. The realignment takes hold and is completed when lawmakers realize they have to respond to the voters who are coming to them, because they made those campaign promises. And if they want to complete the realignment, it is going to push others out who used to be members of the coalition. It's not by force. I'm not saying anything crazy. This is the nature of politics. Barbara Comstock is a Democrat. She's been voting for Democrats for years. But because she was once elected, once upon a time in the era of Bushism, as a Republican, she's pretends still to be a Republican voice, and she wants her party back. All right? This is hilarious. It's all Trump's fault. Let's start where because this is the Doge attack is, first of all, something that is Republican at its core, which is limited government. It's supposed to be conservative too, but these people co-opted the conservative movement, and now they're trying to co-opt the America First movement. They're trying to co-opt MAGA. This is what they do when they lose and lose and lose to these insurgent movements. They eventually co-opt them. And whether or not they are successful at doing that to MAGA versus America, versus what they were doing to conservatism and the idea of the conservative movement when they let a bunch of communists in pretending to be conservatives. And I'm talking about neocons, of course, like I need Buckley or Irving Kristol to tell me what a conservative is. Irving Kristol was a Trotskyite. Like, fuck you, anyway, this is a supposedly bedrock conservative Republican principle to cut the federal government. But no, her hero turned Virginia blue by being a betrayer of those principles. And now she wants to blame Trump. Virginia is blue not only because of illegal immigration. We've gone over these. I did a whole episode on this. You guys should check out on Inside the Numbers if you have never seen it. Virginia is blue because the economy is politics. Economics is politics. George W. Bush, in the wake of 9/11, grossly expanded the size of the federal government, a unforgivable sin to any true or real conservative or real Republican. The jobs alone, the amount of families that you attract, they blew. Northern Virginia was once upon a time like 9-10% of the statewide vote. It's now a quarter of the vote. That is Barbara Comstock's fault. That's her version of republicanism, which was a co-opted version of republicanism from the left. And that is her hero's fault and all his acolytes. That is not Donald Trump's fault. The reason why it's a natural assault, like a natural clash in the state of Virginia, is because Virginia, which was once a red state, is the product of their betrayal. And here is somebody coming back like Trump, trying to again bring them back to what they say they stand for, which is what wins elections. And of course, Virginia is going to be a problem area for him, because that is the embodiment of their betrayal. Unbelievable. Notice she said assault on gardeners. Barbara is more concerned somebody will be outside picking her cotton for her than she is about the value of your citizenship. Tariffs, taxes, says a woman who supported forever free, I hate that word, free trade policies that led to the biggest trading deficits ever seen by the country. And of course, she's cared about the shutdown, which is supposedly all of Donald Trump's fault. All the federal cuts, all the transit tax, you know she raised a tranny. I don't even have to look. I'm just joking, of course. But like, that's the kind of white liberal woman, and this one just pretends to be a conservative. They're literally the demographic destroying the country and electing people who want to kill their political opponents. Like, that's Barbara Comstock. She was a traitor, a liar, who every 2 years pretended to be something she wasn't. And she's offended by somebody like Donald Trump and his supporters coming along and exposing her grift. And then she blames it on him. It's not Glenn Youngkin, who apparently, it's come out now, intentionally wanted Winsome Sears to lose. The Republican candidate in Glenn Youngkin's vision for the next 4 years had to lose in last week's election because Glenn Youngkin wanted to be the only person who could say, look, I'm a Republican and I'm the only one who could win Virginia. That's why I should be your nominee. Even though he knew damn well Winsome Sears was a horrible candidate. But he didn't allow the party to pick their own nominee. There could be nothing. That was in very textbook elitist fashion, a top-down forcing on people, and they rejected it. Unbelievable. This is, and I respond basically telling her that is what happened. Her and her party being co-conspirators in the invasion. That's certainly on the margins. Immigration matters, and that certainly has helped move the number, but that's not the real reason Virginia is blue. In fact, in a year where immigrants turned, especially newly naturalized, swung hard to Donald Trump and actually voted for, narrowly, but voted for Donald Trump, you would think that would actually help him in Virginia. What didn't help him are all the government jobs that they brought into Northern Virginia. Those are mostly white educated people. That's Bush's fault. That's Barbara Comstock's fault. That's not Donald Trump's fault. Anyway, imagine if Democrats elected a president, they came in and slashed like half the government jobs in Northern Virginia by shrinking the government. And then they brought, looks like I forgot that got clipped off somehow. Then they said, no, we're not taking any more HB1 visas from liberal foreigners. We're not taking any more Latin Americans who will, initially need the federal government and be on food stamps. I'm ending all of that legal and illegal immigration. And instead, I'm only bringing in Venezuelans, white conservative Christians from Europe, and let's see, I don't know, Cubans. If you want to still come, you can come, but you can't go to Florida. You got to go to Virginia. Imagine if a Democrat did that, and then Barack Obama comes and then turns the state red, of course, because they would, and then they blame Barack Obama for it. That's how stupid Barbara Comstock and that breed of Republican is. They're not even, let's just call it what it is. They're not even I struggled to find an analogy that was like a somewhat believable one because, of course, Democrats aren't that retarded. They would never do that. They're not that stupid. She really does believe it, but part of it isn't only stupidity, it's greed, and it's like hubris. Republicans like to convince themselves of certain things that benefit them. That's what the ruling class and the donor class, I've noticed that about all of them. If it's financially good for a Republican donor or a politician, they will convince themselves somehow that that is in the best interest of other people and in the best interest of their party. The gardener. And we'll wonder what Mrs. Comstock's been doing with the gardener, huh? Because she's definitely that type of piece of shit. Almost nothing is off limits out of my mouth these days. I am so over these people. They have betrayed the American voter so bad that I think they deserve zero respect. Especially with what they're willing to say about you and do to you. So is it supposed to, it's like a colorful, edgy joke about Barbara really needing that gardener to come by? Is that off limits? Here's what not to me, it's not. I have zero respect for these people. But yeah, I don't think, just to wrap that up, Dave, a year from now, I don't think the government should, unless Democrats do something very crafty, and they could. I just don't think that'll be it. However, all of the charts that Robert and I just showed you, making them, pay the bill for subsidies in healthcare, making them pay the bill from, what we all expect to be an economic downturn continuing in the future, that will be, so that's what, that I think is what they will focus on. And I already saw a memo from one of the Democratic firms, and they actually did suggest to fold on negotiations with the shutdown because it won't matter in a year. I agree with that. And, to move forward with tying all of these failures and letdowns, because they're doing the polling too, guys. There was a report in Politico about it a week before the election. They saw what I saw. I just didn't want to phrase it like that publicly because I knew they would latch on to it. But it's a betrayal. They've lost faith. And these are not like DeSantites or DeSimps. Like, these people are Trump's people. And they have lost faith. And they want to tie that around. And they're smart enough ones to understand that actually, it's not just that we can get some of them to stay home. I bet you we can get some of them to vote for us. And they will. They will. I know Trump will be the last Republican president for a long, long time. Maybe, Thornton. Maybe. And here's the crazy part about it is that, like, the way the census, which was flawed, by the way, that's another thing they should immediately do after nuking the filibuster. Declare the census was bogus, because it was. We all know it now. I said it at the time. People called me crazy. Oh, you don't know. We did know it. They knew it. But even using that shitty census, the way the Electoral College was impacted actually helped Republicans, but only if Republicans were going to be the party of Trump. And they failed to do that. It should actually be incredibly difficult for a Democrat to win the White House again, but Republicans are such losers. They've done the work for Democrats. They've done everything. Like, Democrats haven't, like Robert said, they're not actually doing good here. It's that they're just doing what they need to do, and Republicans are defeating themselves. So I think, I would never have said that, Thornton, like 6 months ago. I mean, the future looked dire for Democrats, and it's just structurally, it looked dire. But they'll run the table now. These idiots are out there. President Cruz, President DeSantis, JD's anti-Semitic. They just want to be defeated. They're stupid. A lot of them are just that stupid. Please name some names they're going to put us all against. Well, I think Robert and I did. I mean, I hate to say it, but I don't hate to say it. Like,
it's amazing because like we didn't want to tell this story to other people. It was like conversations in confidence with certain people, yet we all started hinting, and the Mike Davis thing is one of them. And I got to reach out to Mike and I got to see what he has to say about this. I like Mike and I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but we all heard different versions of the same story from different people. And it's not even different versions. We heard different people tell us the same story. And it all leads to people like that who are one way or another, whether they're taking clients or it's in a donor to their group or something, they're taking money from people who are not MAGA to stop MAGA agenda and to stop real America First reforms. There's a whole thing as well going on, and I did explain this on Inside the Numbers. There's a whole thing going on with I don't have time to go and find it and get it for you guys, but with Big Soda, and like they're fighting the Maha movement, which is crazy, of course, because Maha is like one of the most popular movements ever. But they're doing that, and it's incredible because they're hiring MAGA influencers to do this work. So, and they're taking it. You have to understand, guys, that a lot of these people really don't know what they're talking about. They're like new to the entire business and industry, and they just tweeted like a bunch of stuff maybe a lot of people wanted to hear. Mike's not that, but and others are in a position where they will they want money. They want money, and they need to milk this movement for whatever money they can. And they're doing that. I thought, like, honestly, I recently sent it to the American Association of Public Opinion Pollsters. We are in a group chat with all the members, and I basically sent it to them. And I said, if I catch any of you doing this work, you'll be booted out of the association as fast as you could fart. Like, you're out, because it's intentional dishonesty. Those pollsters know that they're fudging numbers to do the whole thing, and then this like group of influencers do that. Brian, I will start to call these people out more. We warned, you might have noticed, we warned Mike and others that A, if it was true, and B, if you did not stop, all right, like attacking real good people, because we know you're being paid to do it, then we're going to publicly shame you for doing it. Like, you go and look at Barnes, go and look at Mark, go and look at mine. All of our feeds have a warning, and they didn't listen to the warning. They just kept going. The Israel First crowd is next, because we know a ton of people are taking that money to push lies. Like, Tucker was paid by Qatar. That's not true. That paperwork doesn't even prove that. Like, Glenn Greenwald and I were just like having a laugh about it. Like, there are people who literally think that that's somehow proof. It's not at all. It's crazy. Russian vodka. Ooh, that sounds good right now. As a young DJT voter, we want housing and healthcare plans. Also, end these work visas like H-1B, OP, J-1, etc. Also, our deportation's always good. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely. Oh, okay, Brian. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I apologize. I owe Brian an apology. Okay, because I was a little surprised. Like, you're a sharp guy. And I was like, wait a minute, that's just weird coming from him. All right, yeah, okay, my fault. Let me just put this up again. My fault. I misread Brian's original tweet. I see what he's saying. I mean, Trump has pleased the Cruz supporters, and he's alienated the MAGA and anti-Cruz types. Yes. Which is stupid, of course, Brian, because Trump's voters are a larger group. And it's gotten even larger since 16 when he went against Cruz. Like, he has converted so many of those Republicans. That's why we do the America First tracker, the Republican identification tracker. That's why we've done this. Also to show that these low prop new coalition voters were America First. They were not even Republican. And for those who didn't see my tweet, if you're not on Locals, you should be on Locals. And then you would get the crosstabs and you'd be like in this conversation and you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. Peoplespundit.locals.com. But if you're a local supporter, if you saw my tweet with just some of the screenshots, you didn't get to all the crosstabs, but locals did. You could still see it, especially voters 45 and below, or really because of the 40-49 group too is like this. These voters that made up the lion's share of the Trump coalition, they're not even conservative. I mean, some of them obviously are, but it's a minority. It's not even a plurality. Younger voters aren't conservative at all. Yet they align with America First. And he's vaporizing this coalition for a bunch of 65-plus-year-old people that's who holds these views still. And you can see that. Again, we put all of this data out. It's like split even between 65 plus the boomers and stuff, like even the 50 to 64s. It's not really fair to even lump in with them. They're America First, or at least most are. He's nuking them for a group of people who will be dead in 10 years. Like, it's stupid. It's stupid. Or maybe not 10, but like, you know what I mean, guys? Like, politically speaking, they will be dead in 10 years and their positions will be dead and toxic. I want to use Barbara's word, in 10 years. Like Israel has become toxic. And I mean, you still have because of this money. The money is a big problem. I mean, I really respect Sebastian Gorka. This is a member of the National Security Council. I mean, Brian, I'll call another one out right now. That Twitter account that posted about Tucker saying that he doesn't even believe there are Christians being persecuted in Nigeria. That is a funded foreign op account. And it got fact-checked immediately, by the way, because, of course, Tucker did not say that. But it got fact-checked immediately. And all of these people we know took the $7K, which is ridiculous to sell your soul, or at least your front-up payment for $7,000. You're one broke dick piece of shit if you sell yourself out and the people around you for $7,000. That's some pathetic-ass shit. And I came from the working class side of the tracks. It's not a lot. It's not a lot of money, like not in this business. But in any event, they're all quote tweeting it, retweeting it, amplifying it. And then Sebastian Gorka, a member of the National Security Council, after, I want to say it was like 36 hours after being fact checked, does it too. Unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. And they know this is what I'm saying. Like, they know what they're doing. Like, I cannot believe that they are like, they're just going to burn the whole damn house down on the way out. And they're creating so much hatred. Believe me, Mark Mitchell and I are trying to get very creative on how we can gauge how many anti-Semites these people are making. Because they are. Anti-Semitism was not a big problem on the right, guys. They fell for a troll. And it was a troll. I don't mean he's a troll. Nick Fuentes, his audience is big. But like, a lot of the people who watch, and you're going to see this, a lot of the people who watch Nick Fuentes are themselves not anti-Semitic. They're just angry. But that was true 3 weeks ago. I don't know that it's true now. Because I'm telling you, there are people who are telling us they believe Tucker and Nick are anti-Semitic. They're like one in the kind, which of course is nuts. Tucker Carlson is not an anti-Semite. We have people telling us they believe that he is, and they love him. And that number is going up every day. These are people, if you would have asked them a month ago, is it wrong to make comments that are anti-Semitic? They would say yes. And they also would have told you, no, he's not an anti-Semite. Now they're so pissed. They're reacting repulsed by this Israeli PR campaign and all of the shills in America who are pretending like they're not on it. They're so repulsed by it, they're actually willing to tell a pollster that they agree with it. Or, which is hilarious, do you think he's an anti-Semite? Oh, yes. What's your opinion of him? Very favorable. It's terrifying. You'll see. You'll see in a few days. I don't like Democrats, but why keep voting from GOP? I mean, there you go. Karl Marx is retarded. Love the name. There you go. Why indeed? Why indeed? I am so pissed at WinRed. They are now threatening your CC is compromised, so you are blocked. What? They have always done like very dishonest shit, though, where it's like, hey, do you believe this? Or hey, check this out. And then like you click on it, it takes you there. I got to look this up. I'm not aware of what you're talking about, but I've always told people to use Anecdote. People running for office do not go into the WinRed scheme. There's been too many treasurers who would later go in and find out what these fundraisers for campaigns were doing with WinRed. They steal a lot of money. They robbed one client of mine in Michigan blind. So bad. So bad. Disgusting. Disgusting. And there you go. There's another great example of what makes the right different from the left. The left will use something like, what's it called? Act Blue. And they will use it to, money launder. I mean, it's effectively what they're doing. But it's all for the cause. Do some people maybe dip in here and there? Sure. WinRed was used by a ton of grifters who claimed to be fundraising consultants. They already charged ridiculously high fees, but the way that WinRed is structured, you can basically extort people into giving you more of your credit card numbers if you're somebody else, a separate entity. You want me to raise money for your campaign? Sure, I'm going to need your lists, which then include personal identifiable information, even financial information, and then they go on to scam out of it anyway. They rob the people, get their information shared. Like WinRed's a problem. I'm sorry, it is. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Is James Blair at the RNC going to quote tweet an attack on me again? Bro, you're such a fucking loser. Look at you now, you fucking loser. Did you see the last month's registration in Pennsylvania? Charlie's not around, bro, to piggyback off of anymore. Elon saw the door, bro. He's gone. You're lucky 10X called me last week. You haven't done shit for them, Mr. I'm partners with them. You're so full of shit. Trying to justify your own salary and your own existence. Look at you now. Bunch of frauds, the lot of them. With all due respect, you don't know what you're talking about. With all due respect, look at you now, loser. And if you're such partners with them, why does 10X have to call me? Why? Do your freaking job. You have $1 billion data operation. Data center. Load of horse shit. Plagued by latency issues. Yesteryear's technology. The people at Peerly were laughing at you because you didn't even understand the value that AI that we were developing could even give you. You wanted to be a partner and you were like, oh, cool. So it'll automatically text for us? They were all laughing at you. You didn't understand the value and what it did. A real-time augmentation of databases could literally help fix your latency issue. You're a joke, bro. You're all jokes. Data center is a scam. And look, now we all know. Charlie wasn't there to help you. Elon Musk wasn't there to help you. 10X wasn't willing to be thrown under the bus again and get no credit. They'll help Trump. They'll help Trump people. They only called me last week because I'll leave it out. We got calls last week because you're such losers, they can't stand by and just watch you be losers anymore. So they're like begging me to do something I said I won't do anymore. Fucking clowns. Clowns. Hold on, let me just answer my wife, guys. $500 for A copay. Unbelievable. Whatever. Got to do it. Oh, it would be at least like... Yeah, I guess it would be at least like 4. I'm trying to do some math for her real quick. She's going to call me back again if she doesn't figure it out, but that's okay. The Chungster! Rich, I synthesized key White House action items plus get background explanation that you and Robert can use as a template for upcoming communications with a party admin regarding saving the movement before 26. That's actually really cool. I'll read that, Chungster. But I will tell you this, brother. I mean, or sister. I don't know. My bad. I'm just not taking calls from them anymore. Like, I'll pick up the phone for vice president because he's my boy. I mean, I'll tell him anything. He's also the only hope the movement has. The rest of them are clowns. I'll pick it up for him. I'll tell him whatever he wants to know, man. Because he's a good person. Because he deserves it. The rest of them can kiss my Italian ass. I'm not telling them shit. They want free advice. They can watch Inside the Numbers, or they can watch What Are the Odds. I'm just done. You want to know how many missed calls I got? It's like 41. I'm not answering. I'm just not doing it. No more donor text groups. You're done. I only did that shit for Charlie anyway. You're done. Or as my daughter likes to say, you're done. Was turnout much lower? There didn't seem to be any energy or motivation for the right-leaning voters to show up. People seem tired of more of the same, while Dems are just rabid for control. Well, let me just, that is great, and I do have a lot of questions, so you guys definitely sticking around to hear them, which means you're pissed. A lot of times at the end when Robert's done, usually we just wind up and go. But a lot of you obviously are super pissed. Let me show you this. It's a great question. That's a question from locals. We didn't go through it that much. Turnout was higher. It was just significantly higher for Democrats. And now we saw Republicans talking about Monmouth County hitting 2024 levels. And I just had to laugh and just stop it. Stop it. It's ridiculous. All right. But they did. They gassed themselves. Here's by county. All right. And you can see Republicans way down there. I'll take your comment off the screen for a second. That's by county. All right. And you can see that, it's not by county. So turnout, 2025 ballots cast, 2020 versus the 2024 ballots cast, Democratic margins and races you can see in Georgia, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. And the bottom line is everyone had this idea that red counties were going gangbuster, and that was simply not true. They did increase, sure, but Democrats got their vote out more. And here's 2 reasons why. I mean, there's the message. There's always signal. It doesn't matter if you have ballot chasing operations if you don't have good signal. And right now they don't, because people are just super, super mad at them. Let me do that. Democrats also have a structural advantage now that the America First Policy Institute or whoever that was that thought they were going to tell me something. They don't understand this. The president's advisors, they don't understand. There's the basics that so many important people are just not understanding because of the realignment, whether you complete it or not. Democrats are going to. They're already completed. And that's the worst part about it, because Republicans could peel more if they would complete theirs, but they haven't, and they won't. So they're stunted, and they're stunted in this very, very bad, precarious situation. Tenuous is a better word, maybe. They're halted, stunted at a place where Democrats have a considerably larger share of their coalition that is higher turnout, meaning higher propensity, meaning much, much, much more reliable. So their base level turnout is going to be higher. And Republicans are in the position now where if they're able to get extreme levels of turnout or even much higher than they're used to, that will help them. But because the lower prop voters are difficult to get out to be, period, there's that part of that is their behavior and how they feel and how they're the comments we've been just showing you. They're over it. So they're in this very bad situation where it takes being true and faithful to your voters to convince the realignment to complete, but also to convince these voters to show. And like they just did everything wrong. And it depressed them. Some of their even reliable voters were duped into complacency by fake Quinnipiac polls, like 19% favorable rating for the Democratic Party. They're in deep trouble. It was bullshit psyop, and they fell for it. It wasn't just the low prop vote. Democrats did better in those states getting out their low prop vote, but they also did better getting out their most reliable voters. There are even reliable Republicans who are like, I'm done with these fucking people. They are. They're in a very, very dire situation. And part of it, those clapping seals and the people who think they're smarter than they are, the damage done is very bad. Very bad. And you don't have the balls to tell the president the truth to his face, because Trump will fire you if you tell the truth and he doesn't like it. There are many stories about that. I'd rather be fired and have like my honor intact and my character intact and my word is still my bond, all of that remaining intact, than to lie to the man for maybe another paycheck, or whatever. Just no amount of money is worth that to me. Other people, I guess, have different standards. All right. That was a really good question, by the way. Who was that? SAH me. Is SAH. That's good. And by the way, I noticed a lot of you guys are new. Locals kind of went gangbusters the last week. We all welcome and appreciate you being in the locals community. And I'm telling all of the clapping seals and sycophants out there, if you want to be in this game and you want to pretend to be the people's pundit, you'll never last being a sycophant. Because eventually, even though you're telling people, and the truth is sad, you're telling people what they want to hear. People do search social media and online for content that affirms their own belief. They don't like to be challenged. That's true. Not everyone. I'm speaking generalities because that's who I am and what my work is. But eventually, you'll gain followers. They'll love you for telling them what they want to hear. But eventually, you'll hit the brick wall. And then they'll realize that you lied to them. Or you're just too stupid to realize you're wrong. Either way, neither one is particularly flattering. But if you did it on purpose to lie to them just to get followers, or you were some fake sense of loyalty to the president, you're really no better than MSNBC. You're no better than CNN. In fact, you're worse because you should have known better. And you claim to stand for principles that are better. So you're actually worse because you betrayed your own. Let's move on here. Sycophancy was one of the worst problems in the first Trump administration. It was one of his biggest enemies. Dems are just rabid for control, by the way. People seem tired of more of the same, while the Dems are just rabid for control. Yeah. I hope for better. When a 57-year-old white woman is fed up, where do you go? Trump voter every time. I have nowhere to go, and I am afraid of my job, bank accounts, speech. When do I start playing the survival game and go along to get along? Oh, man. That breaks my heart. That does. But I totally understand what you're saying. Yeah. And by the way, he'll be fine. Actually, I don't know. He may not be. This keeps up. Democrats will put Donald Trump in jail all over again. But shit, he could go where he wants. They took his passport last time until it was resolved. If I'm Donald Trump next time, I'll be like, you can try me from fucking Brazil. I'm out of here. We can't. We can't. Where are we going to go? Where are our kids going to go? We don't have billion-dollar bank accounts. Dread Robert says Trump has also hurt himself with America First people around here with these endorsements. McGuire locally, but Lindsey Graham, Cuomo, complimenting his most hated cabinet members like Bondi, Wiles, and Rubio. Yeah, he's killing him. He's killing himself with this shit. He is, regardless of whether Lindsey Graham wins or not. It'll just be because of Lindsey's money advantage. And I wish I could share. I don't know. Maybe I'll talk to Paul. For those of you who don't know, I have done 2 polls in South Carolina for, well, one was technically for Paul. The other one wasn't. But at first, you could just tell that Mark Lynch was just putting out fake bullshit. Mark Lynch and Paul were both at nothing. Neither one of them really were very well known. Someone else got a bigger chunk of both of them. And then there was a ton of undecideds, and Lindsey Graham was at like 45% or 40. Actually, in the first one, he was at like 48, 49. I got to go back and look. And then the second one, he was at 45. And then Paul bumped up because of media, which now I think, shit, I wonder what he's at now after Tucker's interview. But Mark Lynch has money, and he wants to just self-fund. But I'm telling you, that money did nothing for him, what he was doing. People were like, oh, that's a fake poll. Okay, yeah, because I'm known for putting out fake polls. Shut the fuck up. The guy got a media bump, and Charlie was killed. Of course, they're not going to go. Of course, they're going to go for the Project 20, the anti-incumbent vote, the I hate Lindsey vote, which is real MAGA, by the way, especially filled with young people. I'll ask Paul if he'll let me share some of this stuff with you guys, but I can't really on the one because it's not mine. But it's funny. All Paul's vote is all the vote Trump's losing. Which is like, you could argue, if you're a rhino, you would argue that's a good place to be in a Republican primary. Only old people are going to vote. Send out the mailers, man. Okay, and fucking lose everywhere else in every other general election. Like, and somebody like a Mark Lynch, my God, I think he might actually lose South Carolina after a term. I'm not kidding. Or even in a cycle like this. Oh my God. Oh Lord. Oh God. It's been close for Lindsey a couple of times. Trump saved his ass last time. Carolinas, man, they're like, North Carolina's got a research triangle, not in Northern Virginia, but they do have a research triangle. South Carolina's growing and booming. I don't know, man. Keep this up. You're going to lose some of the black belt states. You are. That's one of the things that made me so positive, or at least not positive, but like so bullish, on the future of the Republican Party if they did what I said to do. Because Donald Trump did so well in black belt counties all over the South. And take like a state like Mississippi. Do you remember how close that governor's race was? It's because they're stupid and they're losers. You can't just survive off of winning 70% off the Southern white vote forever, because the Southern white vote is getting much more educated now. You have got to add minorities to your coalition. America First minorities. And Trump's black belt performance was amazing. Amazing. So much better than Todd's. The hell wants to vote for a Todd? No black belt county voter is ever voting for a white guy named Todd. Okay. And of course, I'm sure there could be some Todd that comes along and is super, super personable and is cult of personality for all I know. But you know what I mean, guys. And all that shit it's gone. It's gone. All right, thanks, Dread Robert. All right, it's 5:07. Looks like we did get to everything. Yeah, we did. Okay. Yeah. So look, guys. I mean, I was just like, I would end with this. Like, I know I sound like Johnny Raincloud over here if you're a Republican voter. I'm a realist. I tell people the truth. You know, like I tell people what I think is an honest assessment of the situation. I told Democrats, you're going to lose in 24. They're lying to you. It's not looking good. Your coalition has completely fractured. You may want to do something about it. They didn't. And they continued down the path. Trump's curb stomped her. All right. And he probably, now that I think about it, I don't know. I mean, maybe, because she did so poorly with black voters, maybe Biden would have been able to hold on to some black voters and some working whites. But I don't know. And like, if he would have been able to face Biden, there are some states I think he probably would have carried against Biden. That being said, I don't think the map stays the same, but I do think I do see the argument now, considering how these people swung back and forth like this. I do see the argument that people were making that Harris was still the better choice. I always just thought that, you can't lose the white working base in the industrial Midwest and lose a big part of your minority vote. If you're a Democrat, you just can't. So Biden was technically still going to be the better candidate. But turnout wise, it may have been better not to debate Biden at all and then let Biden survive. I still think the play was not to debate Biden. It wasn't. Because I think they're pushing Biden out anyway, but shit, he had a brain fart. They had no choice but to push him out. And here we are. He may have stomped Biden by a bigger margin, though. So if there's no debate, that would have led to more distortion in the data, though, because Republicans would not have known what was real and what was not. With Harris, that's it. Those were voters that would have continued to vote Republican. Republicans just could not help themselves. They just had to be crooks. They just can't help themselves. They have to be agents of foreign power and Wall Street and K Street. And it's Trump's job was not to let them. Or if they insisted on doing so, then Trump's job was to make them the enemy. Not to invite them in and convert to their heresy. It is what it is. And I'm reading some of this other things. Absolutely. Trump could have cleansed it. He let McConnell and McCarthy go for how long, guys? For how long? And meanwhile, look at Paul. The affordability crisis is killing the American dream. 50-year mortgages aren't the solution. If Paul Danz beats Lindsey Graham, it won't be because of the People's Pundit. It'll be because Paul Danz is talking about the issues that people actually give a shit about. And what I was trying to say is I said all these voters, Graham wins like the 65 plus crowd, which is good for a Republican primary. But if Paul can get these voters out, and I do think that people like Paul Danz and others are going to have to start risking the ire of Susie Wiles and Donald Trump, and they're going to have to start having conversations with voters, asking them or telling them, and that first telling them we have to have a conversation about the world after Donald Trump, and then two, with his actions, has Donald Trump really looked out for you on that account, or do you want to be left with a Senate of Lindsey Grahams, right? And a whole, if that's what you want, then shit, vote for Lindsey Graham. But if you really were America first, you got to come out and vote in this election. You can't do what you normally do and not vote in a primary. You've got to come out and defeat this guy, because we're going to be left holding the bag when Donald Trump leaves. You understand what I'm saying? That's going to happen. And there are a lot of voters who are now starting to ask themselves that, but I haven't seen other candidates start to make that case. But campaigns will heat up after the holidays. When we come back from the new year, then we'll start to see what people are and are not willing to argue. It's not full on campaign mode yet, but that would be the smart thing, because that is what people are worried about. And I know I've asked them, All right, guys, let me kick rocks and get out of here. I got people asking me for an estimate up for something, and I got to tell them they can't do it on their own. All right. Otherwise, I would let them, but it's almost end of business day, so I got to go tell them. All right. Don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them and share them far and wide. The best place is always to follow us, to support us is on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com. You can see Barnes' sportspicks.locals.com also in the description. The public polling project is up. We had one person really give a generous contribution to New Jersey. Obviously, that was about all that was there. So that will be, anytime this happens, it's rolled into the national polling. So we already did one, and we'll do another poll. We got the Christmas poll coming up, but the other one didn't even fund yet. It's up there. You'll see it. If you haven't seen the registered voter economic employment status tracker, I started filling in a bunch of the gaps. It's been up there for a while, but it's not one of the ones we update. It's updated now. I put it on the screen before when Robert and I were talking about employment. Big deal. And long-term employment increasing. It doesn't surprise me considering what we found. All right, so go check that out when you can. But the Public Polling Project, the link is below. If you guys want to contribute to the polling we do, that's the place to do it. Just make sure you don't pick New Jersey. All right, I should actually pull that one down, but apparently I would like to, but I can't if I want to roll funds from one to another. And right now I need to roll New Jersey into National Poll Fall 2025. The political violence one will start. Oh my, it's so much has been going on. I was talking to some people with locals about this. I don't want to put it out with like just crosstabs and a single link like we do. It can't be put out like that. So just bear with me. But we will start to more than gleam at it this week. We'll start to gleam at it. More than gleam at it this week. The Chunkster, I'll check your stuff out. I'm going to go and read it right now after I'm waiting for this dude to give me a time. And I'll see you guys soon. Again, the links for the Public Polling Project, locals, all that is in the description. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys. Locals, I'll see you tomorrow. Everybody else, I'll see you Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. Don't forget, inside the numbers. All the best, folks.